Welcome back to Only Talk Sports, and tonight we've got the Sweet 16 live reaction between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the North Carolina Tar Heels. I know Jackson cannot wait for this matchup. He's wanting Alabama to go to the Elite Eight, something that they should have done last year with the Brandon Miller team. But Alabama, they fell short to San Diego State. They did not have a great game, and now they have a chance to redeem themselves this year and not pull in Arizona. Arizona fell short in the NCAA tournament yet again this season, losing in the Sweet 16 to the Clemson Tigers. Unbelievable that we're going to be seeing Clemson in only their second Elite Eight in their entire history. They made it back in 1980, and they have not made it back to the Elite Eight until this year. But Alabama's got some news. Latrell Wrightsell Jr. will not be playing in this game. He has a head injury. That's a tough loss for Alabama. They still got enough firepower to win this game, but without him, it's just going to make the job a little bit more difficult. But North Carolina, they've got a deeper team than they have had the last couple years. Their bench sometimes still has to play a little bit better if they're going to be a team that maybe can win it all, but they definitely have a deeper bench than they've had the last couple years. But Alabama gets the action going off first with a layup. It's 2-0 Alabama over North Carolina. Can the Tar Heels respond? Cadeau with the ball in the mid-range, and the freshman knocking it down. We're tied up at 2-all. Elliot Cadeau's been playing better as the season's been going along. Alabama, this is their 11th overall appearance in the Sweet 16. So that's very impressive for the Tide. Obviously, they made it last year. But, man, you would think, like with Alabama being a football school and not really putting as much money into basketball, maybe that they wouldn't have been to as many. But 11 Sweet 16s, that's not that bad, especially considering that Alabama's only made the NCAA tournament, I think, around like 30 times. So that's pretty good. That's a pretty high percentage rate of making the Sweet 16. We know North Carolina has a lot more Sweet 16s, tons of national titles, so that's very impressive stuff. But Alabama at the free throw line, though, Carolina fouling Grant Nelson, the North Dakota State transfer. Grant Nelson's had a good year for Alabama. I think some people were expecting more from Grant Nelson, thinking that maybe he would be a guy averaging around 14, 15 points per game, but he's averaged around 12 points per game this season. Had a good year, but he knocked down both free throws to give the Crimson Tide a 4-2 lead. Cadeau bringing the ball off the floor. He's taking the pressure off of R.J. Davis to do everything as the season's gone along. But Cadeau misses a mid-range jumper. Alabama has the board. Mark Sears, one of the best guards in college basketball. Him and R.J. Davis. It's going to be fun watching that battle tonight. Cormac Ryan with the board, though, since Bama missed. Down the floor, Harrison Ingram. His shot is blocked. Alabama going back the other way. Aaron Estrada with the ball, the Hofstra transfer. He's driving in, and his shot's off the mark. Cormac Ryan with another board. But almost a turnover, and it is a turnover. Carolina getting a little too anxious trying to get that ball down the floor. Let's see that block. Oh, that's a fantastic block by Grant Nelson. Harrison Ingram going up for it, and it was just the fingertips. As they always say, if he trimmed his fingernails, he wouldn't have got that block. So Grant Nelson doing a good job there. So Alabama up 4-2. Sears driving into the lane, and it's another turnover. Good play by Baycott. Ingram down the floor, kicks to Cadeau, back to Ingram on the right block. He's trying to drive on Estrada, kicks to RJ with the floater, and RJ Davis, his shot's pure. 4-all, 18 to go in the first. Rylan Griffin with the basketball for the Crimson Tide. Griffin's a good player. He's averaging around 11 points per game this season. Not a talked-about player very often for Alabama. Usually Sears, Grant Nelson, Estrada, they get more of the attention. Estrada down the floor, kicks to Griffin for three, and Rylan Griffin, one of the best three-point shooters for the Crimson Tide. His first shot is pure. What a three by Griffin, and the Tide are up by 3, 7-4, 17:35 to go in the first half of the Sweet 16 battle. Harrison Ingram kicks to Cadeau, who's wide open, and Cadeau's three is good. Alabama can't leave Carolina shooters that wide open. That is just way too much space for Cadeau. Sometimes you can say a guy's just too open and he'll miss, but that was a good look for Cadeau, and he knocked it down. Now Alabama with the ball. This should be a high-scoring game. It's already high-scoring right now. I think the over-under was at 174.5 or something like that, and I predicted the game to go over in my prediction. I did have Carolina winning, though. just by 3 points over Alabama. My official prediction was North Carolina 84, Alabama 81. So we'll see who ends up moving on to the Elite Eight to face not Arizona, but Clemson. And Cormac Ryan knocks down a three, wide open again. Alabama not doing their job on the defensive end, and that's been the issue for the Tide all season long. They're a fantastic offensive team, but they have relapses on defense. They struggle on that side of the ball way too often. That's cost them a lot of games. Now a turnover from Sears, trying to do too much. RJ down the floor, almost got the shot to go, but good defense from Alabama finally. Now Baycott over to Cormac Ryan, to Harrison Ingram in the left corner. Ingram trying to size up Grant Nelson. Ingram with the spin, and the floater and layup is good. What a shot, 12-7, 16-10 to go in the first half. This is going to be a frenetic game. So many points, so much offense, but there are a lot of Carolina fans in that crowd. You knew there would be. Tar Heels and one of the biggest fan bases in the country in college basketball. Bama with another offensive mistake. Ingram with the basketball over to RJ, kicks inside to Baycott, and Baycott goes up strong, and there is a foul, and that is our first media timeout. We could take a breath. Man, that was quick. Carolina up 12-7. Bama looked pretty good to start, but Carolina starting to get their footing, and they're looking like one of the best teams in the country right now. On both sides of the ball, you could tell why they are a 1 seed. But appreciate everybody for being here so far. We got Jackson, the Bama fan. He says, what's up, Only Talk Sports Nation? Appreciate you for being here, Jackson. Hopefully your Tide play well. It's going to be a fantastic game. I cannot wait to see what ends up happening. Jackson also says, I can't believe we could see a Clemson-Alabama rematch or a North Carolina-Clemson rematch in the Elite Eight. That's the weird part in all this. That's true, Jackson. That is definitely true because Clemson and Alabama played and North Carolina-Clemson played as well, and both teams lost to Clemson. Big reason why Clemson got into the tournament as comfortably as they did, because usually when it's the Clemson Tigers with Brad Brownell, they barely get in the tournament. They just squeak in as like a 10 seed or an 11 seed, or a lot of times they don't even make the tournament. And that's why Brad Brownell's job security was not safe. He was kind of on the hot seat. But Brad Brownell's job, I tweeted it out earlier, his job is absolutely safe. There is no way in the world that Brad Brownell is on the hot seat anymore. They're going to definitely erase that from all the hot seat lists because he was at the top. He was at the top of the list of all the hot seat lists, but now he's good to go. And I mean, Brad Brownell, I don't know what the difference is. I just feel like he's got the right mix of players this year. In the past, whether it's just he hasn't had the right mix of guys or maybe his scheme for offense and defense wasn't good enough. This year, I mean, you've got P.J. Hall. Ian Shriftlin's playing very well. Chase Hunter is a good player. Just the right mix of guys, older guys, and they're getting the job done. In Arizona, they choked. They played terrible in the Sweet 16 game that we saw earlier tonight. Not a good performance from Arizona. They went like 8 minutes without hitting a field goal. Free throws were the only thing keeping them in the game. And then Arizona decided to stop shooting threes. Or they decided to drive in more, which was smart. But then Arizona started to shoot more threes. And then they weren't driving in. So it makes absolutely no sense. It didn't seem like they had a game plan for the game. I kept saying they just needed to drive. Because they are a good three-point shooting team. But when the threes are not falling, they were doing the right thing at first because they actually were down by like 10 points. And then they started driving in. They were getting to the line because Arizona at one point in the game had like 25 free throws and Clemson only had like 10. But then as the game progressed, Arizona got away from it. And it didn't make any sense to me. It made absolutely no sense. So whatever they were doing, it wasn't working out. And then at the end of the game, they started doing the right thing, getting it inside again, but it was too little too late. And Clemson, they made the plays down the stretch. So congratulations to Brad Brownell's squad, but it's going to be very hard to beat Alabama or North Carolina because Clemson already beat both these teams. It's tough to beat a team again. Plus, you could argue that both Alabama and North Carolina are playing better basketball than they were then when Clemson beat both of these teams. But you could also argue that Clemson's playing better as well. So it's going to be interesting. Can't pencil it in. It's March Madness for a reason. You can't just say Carolina and Bama is going to beat them. But Clemson, congratulations for getting to the Elite Eight for the second time ever. Brad Brownell's job is safe, but I think Arizona definitely let everybody down. That was a terrible performance, just absolutely terrible by the Wildcats. Hummus Hero, appreciate you for being here. He says, good evening, Jeffrey, Jackson, and all other friends in chat. Glad to see it. It's going to be a fantastic game. I can't believe we're already at the Sweet 16. We don't even have that many games left. We got to cherish it while we got it. The NBA is going to be going on as well still, but March Madness, it's the best time of year for most basketball fans, and it's getting close to being over. Not that many games left, so it's crazy. But Baycott doing his due diligence at the stripe. He's been an improved free throw shooter this season. Knocks down both free throws there. It's 14-7 for the Tar Heels. Alabama, can they respond? Estrada with the ball. Spin move around Seth Trimble. That's a great play by Aaron Estrada, showing off his offensive game. 14-9. Now RJ Davis back the other way. Baycott top of the key. Kicks to Trimble in the corner. He thought about taking that three. He was wide open. Instead passes it up. Now Trimble kicks in the corner to Jalen Withers. Back to Trimble, who's left wide open. And Trimble knocks it down. What in the world is this defense from Alabama? This is absolutely abysmal defense. They're just baiting North Carolina to shoot these shots. Maybe they won't hit them all game, but for now, the Tar Heels are 3-3 from the outside. Now Sam Walters coming into the game for Alabama, the freshman. He misses a three, but Grant Nelson gets the offensive rebound. Now Mark Sears with the ball. Off a screen in the lane, kicks in the corner. Almost out of bounds, but instead the shot is going to be up by Jaron Stevenson, who was a guy that Carolina fans thought might commit to the Tar Heels, but he misses the shot for Alabama. 17-9 UNC. Baycott inside. His shot's off the mark, and Nelson with the board. Mark Sears back the other way. Alabama looks a little ragged on offense. It's like they feel like they have to score every possession, which at this rate they kind of do, but they just need to settle into their offense. They're panicking a little bit. And a missed shot by Estrada. He should have had that layup. Rushed it a little bit. Now RJ Davis down the floor. Tar Heels up by 8. RJ has an advantage on Estrada. Kicks in the lane to Baycott. Baycott waits for the defenders to blow by him, and he lays it in. Reverse off the glass. What a play by Baycott. 19-9, and UNC up by 10. Alabama needs a response. Sears in the lane. His shot's off at a foul by Cormac Ryan. Cormac Ryan does not agree with the foul call, but they did call a foul on that play. But I do have a poll, which you guys have already started to vote in. Appreciate you guys for voting. But I got a poll in the chat. And 89% of people are going with Carolina. 8 out of the 9 votes are all going for Carolina. I'm assuming the only vote for Alabama in the poll is from Jackson. But everybody thinks Carolina's going to win. I did pick Carolina to win as well. But sometimes when everybody thinks that Carolina is going to win or a Pacific team is going to win, the other team wins. Everybody was expecting Arizona to win, and they didn't, even though Arizona has choked a lot in the tournament. Carolina is not as well known for choking, but you never know. Alabama can get hot in a hurry, so Carolina's going to have to continue to defend at a high level and keep scoring on the offensive end if they want to move on to the Elite Eight. But Mark Sears, he needs to do more of that. Get to the foul line because he knocks down both free throws there. Ingram with an open three, he misses. Had a great look, just couldn't get that shot to fall. Now you've got Estrada trying to dribble inside. Has nowhere to go. Jaron Stevenson blocked off by Baycott. Very good defense from the senior forward for the Tar Heels. Now Grant Nelson for 3. And, man, he shot that over Baycott. That's a tough shot for Grant Nelson. Probably wasn't the best look, but it's hard to argue when you make it. Harrison Ingram, top of the key, over to RJ Davis. Carolina now only up by 5. Bama making a little bit of a run. They can't score in a hurry. Withers with the ball, and he turns it over. Terrible pass from the Louisville transfer. Now Sears down the floor. Sears going up with it, and there is a foul on the floor. 13 to go in the first half. This game's going to fly by, though. If there's not a lot of fouls, this game is going to absolutely fly by with the amount of pace that this game is going to have. Both teams are just running and gunning. That's what you want to see, a fast and frenetic game. It's going to be a blast, but, man, there's not a lot of breaks when there aren't fouls. I don't know who Withers was passing the ball to, though, for Carolina. That was a horrible pass. Now you got Sam Walters driving into the lane. And what a block by Carolina, but it's out of bounds off of the Tar Heels. Good defense, though, from UNC. But Alabama's going to be getting the ball back. 12:57 to go. Carolina has 3 fouls. Alabama has 1. Crimson Tide do need to take advantage of Carolina probably being aggressive on defense. Got to get to the line. Sears is going to be your best bet to do that if you're a Crimson Tide fan. And Mark Sears right there knocking down the 3 at the top of the key. That's a fantastic shot from Sears. That's like from over 30 feet. That's a by far over the NBA three-point line. Fantastic shot by Sears. He's got deep range. Inside for Carolina. Jalen Washington kicks it over to Trimble. Now over to R.J. Davis. His shot's off the mark, but Withers with the offensive rebound. He was looking for an and one. He's not going to get it, but that's a good play by Withers. 21-17, making up for that turnover he just had. Rylan Griffin being hounded by Withers. Now inside Sears again, and Mark Sears almost got a ridiculous floater to fall, but it does not go in, and it's off of the Crimson Tide. Carolina basketball, 12-13 to go in the first half. Both teams, man, they're just fantastic on offense. I think if Carolina plays better defense, though, they can win. That's going to be the key. Who plays better defense? Carolina's been better on defense throughout the season, but if Alabama gets so hot from outside, you never know. R.J. Davis in the lane. Kicks to Jalen Washington, and we have a foul, and it's the under 12 media timeout. 21-17. Tar Heels lead by 4, but they led by 10 a few minutes ago. Alabama's cut it to 4. Hummus Hero says, UConn looks very dominant. Could be another title in the first back-to-back championship since Florida. You're absolutely right, Hummus Hero. I mean, I did pick UConn to win it all in my bracket. I'm just going to say that out loud. I did pick UConn to win it all in my bracket. We'll see if they do. They look like the best team. Carolina has had their moments where they've looked like one of the best teams. Houston has had their moments. Some people would even argue Purdue to this point. Whether Purdue can keep it up against Gonzaga tomorrow is yet to be seen. But UConn by far, I mean, nobody is even being competitive with them. Northwestern was somewhat close, but San Diego State, they played UConn much tougher last year in the national championship game. This year, they got trucked today by UConn. An absolutely terrible performance, you would argue, by San Diego State. But then on the other hand, UConn's so dominant that it's kind of hard to even tell if San Diego State played bad. I saw some of the game. I was watching more of the Clemson-Arizona game, but when I did turn it over to San Diego State, UConn, it looked like San Diego State was trying hard, but UConn just had so much offense, and their defense is playing so well. It's crazy. I don't know if anybody can beat UConn as long as UConn keeps up this level of play. Maybe they have a bad game. Anybody can have a bad game. But the Huskies, they could be the first to win back-to-back titles in Florida. Absolutely right, Hummus here. Jackson says he used to think it was a Sean Miller thing, and I know people were saying it's a Tommy Lloyd thing, but apparently doing well in the regular season and falling apart in the postseason is an Arizona thing. That could be right, Jackson. It could be an Arizona thing. It's kind of tough to say that, though, because you do have two different coaches and you do have all these different players every single year. It's not like it's the same players. It's the same coach. But I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it's a mentality, kind of like Purdue. When you don't advance for the longest time, it's just tough when you have that in the back of your mind. And you almost – it makes you tense. Like, it seemed like Arizona shooting the ball, like they weren't free-flowing. For a large portion of that second half, Clemson was just shooting the ball. They were free-flowing. But then as the game got toward the end, they tensed up and were starting to make mistakes. But it just seemed like Arizona was not comfortable in the game. Like, they knew they couldn't choke. They knew they had to, do everything right to win. And that's not the case. UConn is playing loose and free. I mean, the way UConn's playing, they look like they're playing – a team like Winthrop or something like that in the non-con. Like, they're just expecting to win. They're playing hard. Like, they're putting their guys on the bench with like 3 minutes left in the game. I mean, they're bringing in the walk-ons. I mean, like, UConn is just unfazed. Like, they've been here. They've won it all. They're wanting to do it again. Whereas Arizona and some of these other teams, Purdue's shown it in the past, Tennessee, it's like they tense up. It's like we can't choke. We can't lose. You cannot have that mentality. Definitely can't play not to lose. You have to play to win. That's the old saying. And it just seemed like Arizona, they went with the former. Got to go with the latter. You have to play to win, and that's not what the Wildcats did. Very unfortunate, too, because they had a talented team. I was never really expecting them to make a Final Four run. I think I had Arizona losing, actually, in the second round of my bracket, but Arizona ended up losing in the Sweet 16, and Clemson, Elite 8. It's going to be very fun to see if Clemson can keep it rolling, but they're going to have to get by the winner of this game. And Carolina just knocked down a bucket. It's 24-17. Tar Heels up by 7. 11:30 to go in the first half. Alabama, explosive offensive team, but they're going to need a lot of points, especially if their defense keeps letting them down. Bama just missed a 3. Griffin, though, with the ball. Kicks to Grant Nelson. Withers is hounding him. Nelson trying to drive on the block. Kicking it back out to Griffin. Back to Nelson with a two-man game. Couldn't get it to fall, but then Pringle is there for the offensive board. That's a good play by Pringle. 24-19. 11 to go in the first half. RJ Davis, he can get hot in a hurry just like Mark Sears. He's more of a second-half player, though. RJ Davis to Baycott, and that's what happens when you're such a great offensive player like RJ Davis. You're going to attract the defender, and that allowed Baycott to be open down low for the slam dunk. What a play by Davis. You can tell he's got all the experience in the world. Now Sears with the little floater, and it's pure. Mark Sears and RJ Davis, two of the most fun point guards to watch in college basketball. RJ Davis trying to go off the dribble, getting double teamed. Finds a lane, kicks to Withers. Very good pass. Withers kicks to Baycott. Somehow that pass got to him, and Baycott's not able to get the shot to go. Now Sears back the other way. 10:20 to go in the first. Sears kicking it over, and I think there's a foul on the floor. Kind of unfortunate for Bama, though, because if they didn't call that foul, it was a very easy layup. Very good pass from Sears. But I guess in the end, it's good because Carolina has a foul. And now Alabama will have another chance to score. But still, wide open layup was right there. But Sears just commanding the offense. Looks like Alabama's starting to settle down a little bit. At first, you can tell they were a little jittery, but they're starting to settle it down. Pringle over to Ryland Griffin. Cadeau trying to guard, but he didn't guard well enough because Griffin knocked it down. He has that height advantage, and it's a 2-point game. Carolina's lead has vanished in a heartbeat. Cadeau to Harrison Ingram. Back to Cadeau. Thought about the 3. Cadeau kicks it inside to Baycott on the left block. He's backing down. Now he's being double teamed. What a pass to Cadeau, and he missed the layup. The freshman had an easy layup. Cadeau could not get it to fall. That's a tough break. Now Mark Sears driving in. Over to Pringle. Pringle backing down Baycott. Nowhere to go. Good defense from Cormac Ryan on Mark Sears, making it difficult on him. Sears with a tough 3. Almost got it to fall, but could not. Now an offensive rebound for Bama. Turns into a turnover. They couldn't get their hands on it. And now the Illinois-Iowa State game has just started. Illinois up 3-0 over the Cyclones. If that game's close, after this one is over, I might stay live till the end of that game, but it depends if that one is close. But we'll definitely be going live for the entirety of this one. Carolina, Alabama. It's been as fun as it was advertised so far. RJ Davis for 3, and it's off the mark. Not a great look for RJ, but he can hit that. And now a turnover by Carolina. Nate Oates on the sideline calling it too. He's being a referee. He pointed that Cormac Ryan's foot was on the sideline. It seems like more players do that now because they moved the line back a few years ago. You would think players would start to figure that out. But I don't think they figured it out yet. It's like the lines move back, but you got to watch your feet. You cannot be out of bounds. Alabama's all-time record in the Sweet 16 is 1-9. So I was praising Bama earlier tonight, saying they've made a lot of Sweet 16s for a team that hasn't made the tournament a lot, but they've only won one of those games. Their only win was over Syracuse and Jim Boeheim back in 2004. So Alabama got to start doing better when they advance in the tournament. But Nate Oates could be the guy for the job. But Bama has just tied up the game, looking for their second ever Sweet 16 win all time. Estrada, he's got 6 points. He's the one that knocked down the shot. Now Baycott on the right block, driving and getting double teamed. And a turnover. Bad pass from Baycott. Great defense from Bama. Bama not known to be a defensive team. That's a really good play. But then Seth Trimble on the other end almost forced a turnover on Mark Sears. But it will remain Alabama basketball looking to take the lead. That's a really good layup from Estrada. Tough shot. 8:40 to go in the first half. We are all tied up at 26 apiece. Estrada, the inbounder. Kicks to Mark Sears off the curl. And Mark Sears drains it, and Bama's in front. 29-26. They were once down 10. Now they lead by 3. And Mark Sears, he's got 10 points. Cadeau, though, left open again. And Alabama, that defense, their 3-point defense is awful so far in this game. Carolina getting plenty of open threes. 29 all. Now inside, Griffin going up strong, and it's a foul on Cadeau. That's a tough position to be in. right there if you're Cadeau. Trying to guard a taller player, he's driving in on you. Just not much you can do in that situation. But Cadeau wide open for that three on the other end. If Alabama would just guard the three better, they could be up actually by more. Because I feel like more of Alabama's shots have been tougher than Carolina's. Carolina's had a lot of wide open shots. But Rylan Griffin gives Bama the lead again. It's 30-29. Illinois up 5-0 on Iowa State. Hubert Davis just had a talk with Elliot Cadeau. He's gotten better as the season's gone along. Like I said earlier, very, very fun to watch his improvement. And RJ Davis, he's needed the improvement from Cadeau because you talk about Caleb Love, RJ Davis, it just wasn't working. The synergy wasn't there. But Cadeau being a freshman, he knows when to attack and when to give the ball to RJ Davis. And with him being able to make more threes as the season's gone along, it just makes Carolina's offense more dynamic. It's better to have two ball handlers on the floor, but one that's your go-to guy, and that's RJ Davis for UNC. But down the floor, RJ passed it to Seth Trimble, and he was fouled going up. Tried to go with a layup. He couldn't get the layup to fall, though, but he did force Jaron Stevenson into his second foul for Alabama. Jaron Stevenson's a guy that always gets in foul trouble. He doesn't play that much. It almost seems like he comes in the game just to use up his fouls. I mean, as long as you foul and you don't give up the shot, I guess it's not necessarily a bad foul, but you can't let him score. That's the nature of it. You just can't let the guy score. But Trimble, he knocks down both free throws. So it's 31-30, 8:11 to go in the first half. Trimble's been a solid player off the bench this season for Carolina. Still a lot of Tar Heels fans were hoping that he would break out more this season. He's only averaging 5 points per game, but he has improved from last season. It's been 6 ties, 3 lead changes. Bama's largest lead's been by 3. Carolina led by 10 at one point. Sears in the lane, and somehow he got that shot up over Cormac Ryan. That was a tough shot. Now Cadeau back the other way. Kind of dribble into nowhere. Kicks to Jalen Washington. Now over to Trimble. Trimble driving into the lane, going up for a layup, and it's blocked by Alabama, and the ball's out of bounds. So it's the under 8 timeout. 32-31. Bama with a 1-point lead. Now there's 14 votes in the poll. 79% of you guys think North Carolina is going to win, 21% Alabama. So more people are picking Alabama a little bit in the poll, but still over 75%, the majority going with UNC. The Ohio State for the win. Appreciate you for being here tonight. He says, what's up, Only Talk Sports? What a win by Clemson over Arizona. Arizona underachieves yet again in the tournament, and Clemson going to the Elite Eight for the first time since 1980. It's so frustrating, though, the Ohio State, when you make picks for these games, because I literally said when I made my pick for the Clemson-Arizona game that I don't trust Arizona. I don't trust Arizona in the tournament. They always choke, but I think their team is talented enough. And Clemson, they're not normally here. I mean, literally with Clemson, like this is only their second ever Elite Eight appearance ever. Like you would think Arizona, with all that talent, they would get it done. Plus the game was in California, and the fans, it was like 80-20 Arizona fans. It's what it felt like when watching it on the TV. But nope, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that Arizona blew it yet again. And I was this close, actually, to picking Clemson, but I didn't do it because I went with the favorite, thinking Arizona's going to get it done, while still saying that I don't trust Arizona. And then instead of, I guess, proving me right that I picked Arizona and all that, nope, I was wrong yet again. Should have went with the upset. Didn't trust Arizona, but still picked them anyway. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut, I guess. Sorgy Stories, appreciate you for being here. He says, what's up, everyone? Really appreciate you for stopping by. I know you can't wait for Marquette tomorrow. Marquette and NC State. That's going to be a good game. Marquette has a really good team. We'll see if they can advance, but appreciate you for being here. RC, appreciate you for stopping by. This is Only Talk Sports. Yo, bro, cannot wait for these games. RC tomorrow night and tonight as well. Can't wait to check out that Illinois-Iowa State game if it's really close after this one. All these games are going to be so fun to watch. And we got a fun game to watch right here between Alabama and North Carolina. Cannot wait for the second half. Still got 7 minutes left in the first half. It's been a frenetic first half, but appreciate you being here, RC. The Ohio State says, do you think anybody can or will beat UConn this tournament? I think UConn will repeat now as champs. Chiefs repeat in NFL's chances. I think UConn will do the same for college basketball. Like I said earlier, I did pick UConn to win it all in my bracket, so it just seems like the logical answer. But sometimes Even if it seems like it's going to happen, seems like the logical answer, it doesn't occur. You are right, the Ohio State, that the Chiefs repeated. So maybe it will happen with UConn. All odds are in their favor right now. If you look at the betting odds, I mean, UConn is definitely the favorite to win it all over any other team by far. I mean, Houston and Purdue have decent odds. Carolina even has some decent odds, but definitely UConn is the favorite by far. So, I mean, I don't bet, but if I had to bet money on it, I would go with UConn to repeat. It's what I picked, but I don't know. Sorgy Story says, Jackson, roll, Tide, roll. I know Jackson is hoping so hard Bama will win. It'd be huge for the program and for Nate Oates. I mean, they've been able to advance in the tournament, but never really been able to get super far, so it'd be huge. Carolina with a miss. Bama with the board. Alabama's hanging tough, and their defense is starting to tighten up a little bit. Sears down the floor, and he lays it in again. Carolina's got to do a better job on Mark Sears. They're letting him get in the lane a little bit too easy last couple of possessions. Cormac Ryan with the ball. Over to Harrison Ingram. Now back to Cadeau, top of the key to Ingram. Ingram driving in the lane, back to Cadeau for three, and his shot is an air ball. Elliot Cadeau had an open three, and it's tough because, in essence, it was a good shot because he was open, but it was a bad shot because he airballed it. Definitely an airmail from the freshman, but he's hit a couple threes already in this game, so can't blame him for taking it, but, oof, that was ugly. Nick Pringle with the ball. Looking for somebody to pass the ball to. He's uncomfortable at the top of the key. He finds Sears. Sears with Cormac Ryan all over him. Mark Sears back to Nick Pringle. With a behind-the-back pass to Estrada in the mid-range. His shot is short. Pringle with the board. Estrada for three. He went over two on that possession. R.J. Davis with the rebound. Back the other way. Carolina needs a bucket. R.J. down the floor. He tried to kick it to Baycott. It would have been a sweet play, but a good steal from Sears. Sears, one of the best defenders on an Alabama team. It struggles on defense, but they're playing hard right now. Defense has tightened up tremendously in the last few minutes. Sears trying to drive on Baycott, who's guarding him, which he has an advantage there, but he does give the ball up and a turnover. Carolina down the floor. R.J. Davis goes up for a layup, and Sears with another good defensive play. Mark Sears is killing it on defense right now. Estrada down the floor, crossover dribble with a floater, and it's good. Oh, no, and the ball hit Cadeau in the head. That's tough. Cadeau in the wrong place at the wrong time right there, but 5:55 to go in the first half, and Bama leads by 5. What a turnaround. 15-point swing from when Carolina led by 10. Now Bama's up by 5. And it's all because of defense. Plus, Carolina's not making the shots that they were making earlier in the game. Carolina's going to have to score a lot of points. This game's probably going to be in the 80s. I'd be shocked if it wasn't at least in the 80s. Could be even the 90s. Paxton Wojcik, the Brown transfer, he's into the game for Carolina for the first time. R.J. Davis trying to heat up. Kicks to Cormac Ryan for three. Big shot for North Carolina. They needed that bucket from Cormac Ryan. Cormac Ryan previously played at Notre Dame. Will's familiar with him, and he also played at Stanford. He's a very good shooter. Been to 3 different schools. Sears in the lane again on that left side of the floor trying to get to the rim. He was cut off this time by Cormac Ryan. Good defense there. Now Rylan Griffin, who's a dangerous three-point shooter. Harrison Ingram did not put a hand in his face, and it came back to bite him because Rylan Griffin knocks down the three. You got to guard Griffin. Him and Sears are the most dangerous guys from 3. Baycott in the paint with a spin move, goes up for it, and he's blocked, and now it's a top, and Carolina does have the possession arrow. But Alabama, you got to give credit to the defense. I mean, it doesn't look like they're doing all that well because Carolina's got 34 points. But still, that actually was a foul, though, on Mohamed Diabate for Alabama. That was a foul. He actually got Baycott on the arm. The rest did not see that one. Cormac Ryan in the corner, though, knocks down the three. So it's 39-37, 4:40 to go in the first half. 2-point game. Cormac Ryan, 3 of 3 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3. That's a good statistic if you are a Tar Heels fan. And now a turnover from Alabama on the other end. I think an illegal screen maybe from Grant Nelson, not 100% sure. But when Carolina has Cormac Ryan going from outside, it makes them a much more dangerous team. He's had a lot of games where he's disappeared. And he's actually not played all that well in the NCAA tournament. His last good performance was against Duke on the road in the regular season finale. He played great in that one. Yeah, it was a illegal screen from Grant Nelson. He stuck the hip out. You're going to get that foul called every time. Ingram down the floor, and he lays it in, and we're tied yet again. 4:20 to go in the first half, 39-39. If you love offense, this is the game for you. Muhammad Wade with the ball for Alabama, and it's another turnover. Down the floor, Ingram to R.J. Davis. Davis goes up with it, blocked, but then Baycott with the slam. 41-39, what a play. Now Estrada down the floor to Griffin for the layup. He missed it. But then Wade with the board, kicks to Griffin in a layup. What a play. I don't know how Wade did that. Wade somehow wrapped that pass around to Griffin. That's a fantastic play. He doesn't even play that much for Alabama. Wade doesn't, but man, what a play. But then Baycott on the other end. Wade struggling on the defensive side of the ball there. Baycott worked him with a spin move. 43-41. Baycott's got 10 points. Griffin for 3, and Rylan Griffin for Alabama knocking down another 3. Carolina cannot continue to let him get shots off. You got to guard him better than that. He's got 15 points. He's eating them up. 3:15 to go in the first half. I can barely keep up with what's happening on screen. This is unbelievable. The offense. This looks like an NBA game. Baycott to Harrison Ingram. Now over to R.J. Davis on the left side of the wing. Now backing it back out. 5 seconds on the shot clock. R.J. for 3. It's short. Baycott with the board. And I think there's a foul on the floor on Alabama. And now that's the under 4 timeout. 44-43. Bama with a 1-point lead. What a game we've got so far. The Ohio State going with another upset here. He says, I low-key think Clemson beats the winner of this game and makes the Final Four. I mean, you could be right, the Ohio State. Clemson has already beaten these two teams, which maybe helps when picking an upset, thinking that, well, if they beat them once, they can do it again. But I also have the narrative that it's tough to beat the same team again. So since Alabama and North Carolina both lost to Clemson already this season, maybe Clemson will turn around and not be able to beat them the second time around, and Carolina, Bama, whoever wins will get revenge. That's the way I would look at it, maybe, but you never know. Clemson's playing very well, but I still think Arizona played worse than Clemson played well, but that's just my opinion. But you could be right, the Ohio State. Sorry Story said, I agreed. I think Clemson's headed to Phoenix. So everybody's going with Clemson to make it to their first ever Final Four here in a long, long time. It's crazy. The Ohio State says last time the Final Four was in Phoenix in 2017, an unexpected team from South Carolina made the Final Four, and this year another unexpected team from South Carolina and Clemson may make it. Well, the Ohio State, that's a good theory there. You are right. Frank Martin had a good team that year. Chris Silva, very good forward for South Carolina that year. They had some good players. I remember that team. No one thought South Carolina was going to even make it to the Sweet 16. So if Clemson could do it, that would be absolutely crazy. I mean, they got the players. I like Clemson's team. P.J. Hall, I don't know if he's going to be an NBA player or not. I think he has the potential to be, though. He's a solid player. Plays very hard for Brad Brownell. Ian Strickland kind of does a little bit of everything, like his style of play. It would be their first ever Final Four. So they did not make the Final Four that year in 1980. Only made the Elite Eight. So it would be their first ever Final Four, and everybody's picking it to occur. Like, that's crazy. I don't know. I would still think maybe it's a better chance they don't win, but you guys could be right. Sorgy Story said this weekend may be the best for sports all year. March Madness, MLB opening weekend, NBA, and NHL. Yeah, the only major sports you don't have is the NFL, but I think you even have the UFL. I was going to say the XFL and the USFL, but that's gone. The UFL, the Spring League, I think starts this weekend as well, if I'm correct. 352 Zeke, appreciate you for being here. He says, who do you have? I'm picking Carolina to win. When I made my prediction for this game, I had Carolina winning 84-81. Looks like there could end up being more points than that in this game. The offense is off the chart for both these teams. Sorgy Story says, Jackson believes. Man, Alabama's a good team. Like, they're a really good team. The defense is what worries me, but the effort's there. And plus, Alabama's making shots. And when you're making shots, it cures even poor defenses. 352 Zeke says, it's like I'm listening to the radio or something. I appreciate that, 352 Zeke. I kind of like that presentation. You know, if you guys are like, maybe doing the dishes or maybe eating dinner and you're watching the game, if you like to listen on YouTube, I really appreciate that. Kind of get that radio feel, but really appreciate everybody for being here. Definitely trying to keep up with this frenetic pace. It's hard to, though, but it's a lot of fun. Carolina knocked down a three. It was 46-44. Bama missed a shot, and then Carolina back the other way, and Carolina scores again. 48-44. Baycott has got 12 points, 5 of 8 from the field. And just like that, Carolina retakes the lead. It's crazy. I mean, I looked down for a minute at the chat, and then the game's just going absolutely nuts on screen. Mark Sears with the basketball, 2 to go in the first half. Sears trying to drive on Cormac Ryan, gets cut off. Sears recovers, drives into the lane, has like 3 guys on him, and he misses the shot. Carolina with the board, and the tide is starting to swing back to the Tar Heels. Pardon the pun. RJ Davis kicks inside to Baycott. Pringle on him. Over to RJ Davis, to Cormac Ryan for a deep 3, and it's good. Cormac Ryan. Unbelievable shot. 51-44. 1:41 to go in the first half. Cormac Ryan, that's like from 32 feet. Even had a hand in the face. Carolina's on fire, and that's the issue when it comes to Alabama. I mean, their defense has been aggressive, but now they're starting to give up shots again. That's crazy. Sorgy Stories said very much so. Hummus a little bit nervous, but not much working on stream graphics right now. That's pretty cool. Sorgy Stories, appreciate you for being here. Sorgy Stories, the same as ever. UConn has been my pick. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can really go with anyone else. I mean, if we're all wrong, the ones of us that pick UConn, we're wrong. But it's just kind of one of those deals that you got to pick them. I mean, it's the logical answer. The way that they're playing, they just look by far the best team, but they could lose. Sorgy Story says Purdue is going down against the Zags tomorrow. I have my predictions for all these games if you guys would like to go check them out. I have shorts on every single one of these Sweet 16 games, but I have picked Purdue to go down. I did go with Gonzaga, which a lot of Purdue fans do not agree. So much so that a lot of people are saying that every time I pick against Purdue, Purdue wins, which isn't true. I have picked against Purdue before, and they've lost. I picked against them last year when they played Indiana on the road, and Indiana did beat them. But it was a bad pick. It was an absolutely terrible pick. But I went with Utah State to beat Purdue, and that pick was not good. That was not good. Will and D says, hey, guys, I want UConn to go down, but I have to give them credit. They're the first defending champion to go back to the Elite Eight since Florida. Yeah, that's fantastic stuff for UConn. Actually, I take that back. I did not pick Utah State against Purdue. I did pick Purdue. I forgot. I picked Purdue to win by 2 points. That's the thing. I picked Purdue to only win by 2, and then Purdue won by 40. So it was still kind of humiliating, even though I was right and I picked Purdue to win. I just had them squeaking out a win. If TCU had a win, I was picking TCU. That's what I was going to do. In my bracket, I had TCU beating Purdue in the second round. That's what my brain was thinking. But I had TCU beating Purdue in the round of 32, which that didn't occur because TCU lost. I had Purdue beating Utah State by only 2 points, and Purdue won by 40. So that's crazy. Will and D says, hey, Anthony, I think Purdue will be too much for the Zags, but we'll see. The only way Gonzaga is going to be able to beat Purdue, because I do agree with you, Will, in the front court at least, the issue with a guy like Graham Ike is he fouls a lot. Graham Ike is very foul prone, and if he gets into foul trouble, I don't think Braden Huff or Ben Gregg, some of the backup bigs for Gonzaga, they're going to struggle mightily with Zach Edey. And then if Gonzaga's not making threes, then they're going to have a hard time winning. I think Gonzaga's backcourt, Ron Nimhard, Nolan Hickman, they have to outperform Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith. And if they do, they can win. But if the front court with Zach Edey's too strong and the backcourt for Gonzaga doesn't play well enough, they're definitely not going to win. But back to the game. 1:30 left in the first half. 51-44. Carolina up by 7. Alabama needing a bucket, and Aaron Estrada right there when Bama needed him to get a floater. It's 51-46. 8-2 run, though, for Carolina. They've been playing well, but Bama ends that run with a 2. Cormac Ryan driving into the lane. He's been explosive from outside. Kicks it to Baycott on the right block. Baycott driving in, goes up strong. He's off the mark. Ingram with the board. He kicks it outside to R.J. Davis. Thought about the three, back to Ingram, over to Cormac Ryan, and Cormac Ryan's three's off the mark. His first miss, but he gets it back. Kicks to Ingram, who's wide open, top of the key, and Harrison Ingram knocking down the three. 54-46. Carolina might hit 100 in this game if they keep their foot on the gas in the second half. Down the floor, Rylan Griffin loses the ball, but somehow he gets it back. Now over in the corner to Aaron Estrada, who kept his feet in bounds. His three went in and out. Paxton Wojcik with the board. And Carolina with an 8-point lead. 15 seconds to go in the first half. They can hold for the final shot. R.J. Davis on the March Madness logo. Estrada guarding him. 7 seconds. Down to 5 seconds. R.J. off the dribble, drive, and there's a foul. Alabama. I don't know if they had a foul to give. No, they don't. So that was the 7th foul. So RJ will be going to the line. But it looks like RJ Davis is a little banged up. Hopefully RJ Davis is okay. Carolina cannot afford RJ Davis to go down with an injury. That is the last thing that the Tar Heels could use. RJ Davis is the floor general. Have to have a plan at a high level. But it looks like he's hurting a little bit. His elbow, he's been grabbing at it for the last 20 to 30 seconds, but he's going up to the line. Can he give Carolina a double-digit lead with 2 free throws going into the half? A 1-and-1, and his free throw is off the mark. RJ doesn't miss many free throws, so maybe that arm is bothering him. Half-court heat for Bama, and it's off the mark, and that is your first half. 54-46. An offensive explosion for both teams. R.J. Davis a little banged up, something to monitor for the Tar Heels coming into the second half. He probably will play. I don't see any way R.J. Davis is going to be off the floor. I mean, he would have to be severely hurt. I think he will be able to play. But Alabama, moments that first half, they had great moments, but unfortunately for Alabama, their defense started to let them down again as the first half wore on. And it's so tough when you're Alabama and you're not the best defensive team in the world and you're playing an offensive team in Carolina that's basically just as good at offense, if not maybe even better than you are. I think Alabama statistically scored more than Carolina this season, but there are moments where Carolina can be a better offensive team in Alabama. And that's what we saw in the first half. 54-46, Tar Heels, they lead by 8. Sorgy Story says, if Gonzaga can hold Purdue's backcourt to 15 points each, they'll win. I mean, I agree. It's all about the backcourt because I think the front court's kind of a lost cause. It's going to be very tough when you look at a guy like Graham Ike, who, again, is very foul-prone. It's just going to be very hard for him to be able to slow down Zach Edey. I just don't really see it happen. I think Zach Edey's probably going to have 30 and 12 like he always does. I mean, he basically scores that every single game. Sometimes he's been having like 18 rebounds, 20 rebounds. That's why he's going to win Player of the Year again. And I think that one publication has already announced him Player of the Year again. Maybe it's like Sporting News. It might have been Sporting News, but all of them are going to vote him Player of the Year again. He's going to be back-to-back Player of the Year. And I mean, he deserves it. He's a fantastic player for college. I still think the only issue for Zach Edey is he's going to struggle to make the jump to the NBA. The NBA is a completely different game. That's why I don't understand why these draft experts have Zach Edey in like the top 25 of the draft. Like I've even seen some have him in like the back end of the lottery. And I'm like, he is not going to be that great of a player in the NBA, like to be worth a lottery pick, especially as a senior, since they don't barely take seniors anymore at the top of the draft. Trace Jackson Davis was the second to last pick of the NBA draft this past season. And he's having a really good year for the Warriors as a rookie, impacting the game, but he was a senior. So he wasn't taken out. Plus, he doesn't have a jump shot. Zach Edey doesn't have a jump shot, but he doesn't run the floor very fast. I just don't see it. I mean, Zach Edey is a fantastic college player, deserves all the accolades he's getting, helping lead Purdue farther in the tournament this year than they have been recently. Maybe they can go even further. We'll see if they can beat Gonzaga tomorrow. But it's going to be tough for him to adjust to the NBA. RC says, I don't trust North Carolina completely. I mean, Carolina is a team that I know that they didn't make the tournament last year, but the year before that, even when they were not expected to, North Carolina made the national championship game. So Carolina can still be reliable, and this is a very good team. The problem with Carolina, the only issue I see is like if RJ Davis doesn't have a great game and the supporting players like Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan don't play all that well, then that's when Carolina can have some issues. But Cormac Ryan's had a really good first half. Ingram's had his moments. Baycott's been solid. And even though RJ Davis hasn't scored all that much, haven't really needed him to. So that's when Carolina becomes a very dangerous team, when you do not have to have RJ Davis scoring 25 points to win. So I think Carolina, while they might not be trustworthy to everybody, I think they definitely are a team that's more trustworthy than a team like Arizona, who just lost, or maybe even Purdue until they really prove it. But I do see your point, RC. They have some flaws, so we'll see. RC says, I picked Illinois as my champion. I mean, that's a risky pick, RC. I mean, Illinois is still in the tournament. We'll see if they can beat Iowa State. Definitely be keeping an eye on that game. But the Big Ten hasn't won a title, RC, since 2000. I mean, you probably know that. I'm sure you do, because like everybody knows, and I know you follow Big Ten basketball, but the Big Ten has not won a national championship since Tom Izzo in 2000. It's kind of hard to pick a Big Ten champion when they haven't won a championship in 24 years. So if Illinois does it, or even Purdue, it would be huge for the Big Ten to get that narrative off their back. Will says ESPN is ahead of Jeffrey. You're right, Will. It always is. I try not to look at the score on the screen, on my computer screen, because if I do, then it spoils what happens. So like I'm looking at the TV. I know that I'm a little bit behind, but that's hilarious, Will. Jackson says, I hope the Crimson Tide wins. I know you do, Jackson. I know you want the Crimson Tide to win, and I'll be happy for it if they do. I like Alabama too. I really do like Alabama. They're a very good basketball team. Nate Oates done a good job down there, but it's going to be a tall hill to climb to beat Carolina, but they definitely can do it. Sorgy Story says, I hope so too, Jackson. I know a lot of people want Carolina to lose. I get it. You know, being a blue blood and everything, like people just want them to go down. Ross Hargett, appreciate you for being here. He says, Roll Tide from Tuscaloosa. Appreciate you for stopping by. Then we got Sorgy Story says, Shaka Smart would say Jeffrey's bringing energy-generating behaviors to the stream. Yeah, I try to bring the energy, Sorgy Stories. I know some people, you know, will talk about my energy. I actually had a comment the other day that someone said, how many Red Bulls have I had? I don't drink Red Bull. I've never had a Red Bull, probably never will. I'm not into, you know, caffeinated drinks. I mean, I like tea, but other than tea, I don't really drink much caffeinated drinks. Don't drink coffee. I just try to have natural energy, just try to bring it. Try to bring the energy to the game because it's March Madness. I mean, how could you not bring the energy? This is the greatest time of year, and for a college basketball fan and almost for any sports fan, because this is a unique tournament. It is a unique tournament. The NBA 7-game series. So when you watch a game, it's not consequential. Game one doesn't really matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. It's an important game because it's one of the 7 games, but if you lose, you could still win the 7-game series. You could come back around and win. You talk about even the college football playoff with football. It's like, well, you lose, you go home, but it's like it was only 4 games. As that expands, maybe that gets become a bigger deal. It's going to need to be more competitive though, with teams not like Georgia, you know, and Alabama, and maybe even like Ohio State, teams like that, you know, winning over maybe teams like Penn State this weekend as like the 10 or 11 seed. If it's all those teams that normally win keep winning, it's not going to be all that competitive, but maybe they eventually will with NIL in the portal. It could level the playing field. We'll have to see with that. But I just think March Madness in college basketball is the most unique tournament because the better team loses all of the time. Cinderellas are what make March Madness so special. The winner go home is what makes it special. All of these games on at the same time, especially that first week in round of 32, round of 64, it's crazy. And you just don't have a team in college football like the Citadel knocking off Alabama. It's not going to happen because the athleticism of the two different teams is just so wide, it's so far apart. The better team's going to win 99.999% of the time. But in college basketball, teams like the College of Charleston or Loyola Chicago, they can win. Even St. Peter's, I know College of Charleston has advanced, but it was just an example. But St. Peter's, Loyola Chicago, these teams have advanced. Florida Atlantic with Dusty May. Because even though they're not the better team, you can have an off night, or you could just go on that Cinderella run where everything you shoot goes in. And that's why March Madness is just so great. Steven Cherry says, "What's up, Jeffrey? It's the UConn Invitational." Steven Cherry already bringing it with the first comment. Appreciate you for being here, Steven. But yeah, I mean, you can call it the UConn Invitational. Everybody's already penciling them in that they're going to win. I picked them to win in my bracket, like I said before. So, I mean, definitely you can call it that, but I think there's still a shot they could go down. I think it's absolutely for certain that they're going to win, but at the same time, it's gonna be tough to knock them off. But that's a good one, Steven. Brandon Tisdale, appreciate you, Beer. Says, "Yo, appreciate you for stopping by. Can't wait for the second half of this one. Could be a game that goes down to the final shot. Maybe one of these teams pulls away, but whatever happens, it's going to be a frenetic second half." Steven Cherry says, "Louisville should have hired Huggins, a proven winner. All these coaches and baggage, nobody cares. It's about winning." I don't know if you saw my video, Steven, about Louisville, because I did make a video on Pat Kelsey getting the job. But I basically, when talking about Huggins, I kind of said that his age was the biggest reason that I wasn't like a fan of them hiring him if they did. Because I know people are like, well, the baggage. But to me, what was worse with what he did was like the DUIs and stuff, because of the fact that, I mean, he's done it before when he was at Cincinnati, and then he did it again now at West Virginia. I know the other stuff, but like, to me, that wasn't as big of a deal. Like, the drinking stuff's worse. But Huggins' age, I mean, even if he got the job, how long would he have coached? Would he have coached maybe only 3 or 4 years? I think Louisville needs a guy that's going to be there for a long time and going to be able to turn it around. Now, whether Pat Kelsey's the guy or not, we have no idea. I think he's got the energy. He's definitely a winner. He's won at Winthrop. He's won at the College of Charleston, and he is familiar with that region of the country. He was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, so that's not that far away from Louisville. So I think that the Pat Kelsey hire checks off a lot of boxes, but Huggins is a proven winner. But his age was kind of the only thing that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of if Louisville would have hired him. Will and D says, "I like the guy from Charleston. He'll be good." I think he will. I like the hire overall, which is what I said in the video. I think it's a pretty good hire. I just don't know if he's going to be able to turn around Louisville as quickly as the fans want him to. Same thing with Dusty May at Michigan. I think both programs need to be patient with Dusty May and Pat Kelsey, because Michigan and Louisville are in bad shape. Yes, the portal and NIL can change things on a dime. We know that. He'll literally change things on a dime if you get the right players through the portal. But I just think that they need to be patient. Give them enough time, and I think both guys can succeed. Steven Cherry says, "I agree, Will. Just think Huggins deserves another gig. Maybe he'll get one." I mean, he wanted the job. And what I think's crazy about the situation is that Huggins' name popped up in the coaching search hours before they hired Pat Kelsey, which I don't know if that has any connection or not, but I thought that was kind of ironic. It came out of nowhere with Huggins, like, oh, he's interested in the job. Is he going to get the job? And then immediately after that, Louisville went with Pat Kelsey. Another guy that was a candidate for the job was Richard Pitino, the son of Rick Pitino. And I can't believe that, according to reports, they claim the Louisville administration was weary of Richard Pitino because of what his father did at Louisville. And I don't know. To me, I said in the video, I mean, how can the sins of the father be put on the son, right? I mean, Richard Pitino, as far as we know, hasn't done anything, not that I know of. So to put that on him and say, well, you're not going to get the job because you're related to Rick Pitino, who did all this to our school, it's like, I don't know. That was kind of messed up. I mean, if that is the reason they didn't hire him. I mean, if they think Pat Kelsey's a better hire than Richard Pitino, I'm cool with that. I could buy that, but I don't think they should have not given Richard Pitino the job just for that reason. I thought Chris Collins would have been a good candidate for the Louisville job as well, but that never really surfaced. Will says, as a Catholic, I don't like him, laughing out loud, but maybe someone will hire him. He's pretty old, though, so he might just want to stay retired. That's funny, Will. I get that sentiment. A lot of people are not fans of Bob Huggins for different reasons, but I think his age is the bigger reason. Other than anything else, it's the age. I mean, he's over 70. He's like 71 years old. And, I mean, retirement probably would be the best option. Will says, Illinois off to a hot start. Yeah, Illinois definitely has been a really good team this year. I mean, Brad Brownell's done a really good job at Clemson, but I think Brad Underwood deserves a lot of credit at Illinois as well. I know he's had technically more tournament success to this point than Brad Brownell, but I think that sometimes when you look at a coach and you don't think that he's really that good, because I know a lot of people have trashed both the Brads, but they've had success at their schools. It's taken Brownell a long time at Clemson, but Brad Underwood, like at first, things weren't all that good at Illinois. And I remember a lot of people saying he should be fired. But Illinois is a good program. I mean, they're consistent. They're consistently toward the top of the Big Ten at a school that, while they've had success in the past, like they haven't been to the Sweet 16 since 2005. So, like, I think Brad Underwood deserves credit. I really do for what he's done. And now Brownell at Clemson. Well, I think we can finally give him a little bit of credit, whether he's a good coach or not, because I know some people will still say that definitely Brad Brownell isn't, or maybe even Brad Underwood, but I think they deserve credit, especially Underwood. UNC now has 76% of the vote to Alabama's 24% in the poll that I put up. Still most people going with Carolina, but appreciate y'all for voting in the poll. Steven Cherry says Pitino is 71 and still legit. I mean, that's true. I mean, I remember when Rick Pitino went off on a tangent on his team. I even made a video on that, talking about what he said after one of their bad losses. I mean, he went crazy. Like, he was mad at his team, and you can't blame him because they have enough talent. What's tough is that Rick Pitino had to recruit through the portal a lot to get the team, and like that he had. And like the only player that they brought back was Joel Soriano from last year's team. And he did bring over a couple guys from Iona, but most of those guys from Iona didn't have a lot of success. It was more of, guys that he got from other schools. But I mean, Rick Pitino, he's still doing a good job. And they didn't make the tournament, even though that a lot of people would argue that they should have. St. John's, Indiana State, Oklahoma, a lot of teams that you could argue could have been in instead of Virginia. But Rick Pitino doing well. Leonard Hamilton, as he's gotten older, he's not winning as much anymore, but I think the portal era is hurting him. Like when he had those good teams back in 2019, 2020, he had a lot of experience, a lot of guys that were willing to play off the bench and not play a lot of minutes. Now, guys, if they're not playing starter minutes, they want to transfer. They want to get out of there and go to a school that's going to play them starter minutes. And I think that's really hurting a guy like Leonard Hamilton. Will says, yeah, maybe, but Huggins has a drinking problem that hasn't gotten any better, so he may have to quit to get hired. Yeah, I mean, he should quit anyway. I mean, at his age, like, it's not good to drink at any age, but he definitely needs to quit. It's not doing Bob Huggins any good if he's still drinking a lot. He definitely needs to quit. Will says we could hit triple digits. Absolutely. I think Bama and Carolina have a shot to hit 100. Sometimes teams do fade as the game gets closer to the end when it comes to offense, but there's been tons of offense in this game. You never know. I said 84-81. Maybe that prediction is going to be wrong. I went maybe a little bit too low. But usually in the tournament, I just think like teams are jittery. They sometimes go on stretches where they play poorly. That can make the score lower. But that hasn't happened so far in this game. Storgy Story says Steven is someone who reached for West Virginia. Hiring Huggins will be a terrible move after what he said and what he did, plus his past history with Cincinnati. No one should hire him. I get that, Storgy. I still think it's the age. Definitely. The age is the biggest reason. I know the other stuff, you're right, Sorgi and Will, the other stuff's not great, but his age is the biggest drawback to me. Sorgi Story said, Jeffrey sounded like me last Marquette game, laughing out loud. Those who are watching can confirm I was locked in. I'm sure. I wish I could have caught that stream, Sorgi. It's tough to catch sometimes streams when you got stuff going on, but I would have loved to have seen that, Sorgi. I'm sure you were. I'm happy Marquette's making it as far as they have. Shaka Smart, a lot of people had, I guess you would say, turned on Shaka Smart after, what the VCU run he had, the Final Four back in 2011. But then he went to Texas, and he was not able to really ever build anything at Texas. The Longhorns were constantly underachieving in the tournament. And so people were kind of not high on Shaka Smart anymore. I think Shaka Smart's getting that back. And if he can get him to an Elite Eight, losing to NC State would be tough. That would be really tough. I think that would frustrate a lot of people if he can't get by NC State. But if he can get by NC State, get to the Elite Eight at least, I think that will make a lot of people think more favorably of Shaka Smart again. Yeah, like Will says, if he quits drinking, he may get hired. I think he still has a shot to get hired. I would say it's like a 25 to 30% chance, but the longer time goes on, it's probably not likely. Plus, like the Louisville job might have been like the perfect fit for the area and the regionality and everything, because he was at Cincinnati, West Virginia. I don't know how many other jobs like Bob Huggins would even take that's in the region that would be a good job. So it's probably not likely he gets another job. It's probably around 25%. Will says Purdue kind of has that 2019 Virginia vibe going, though. I picked Marquette. They could do it too. I mean, You could be right, Will. I mean, I know I keep picking against Purdue a lot. I picked against them in a lot of games this year that they did end up winning. I think they're a good team. The Lance Jones edition has made their team better. But I don't know. They could be 2019 Virginia. They could end up going from losing to a 16 seed to winning it all. But I don't know. Something tells me they're still going to blow it, but we'll see. So Orgy Story said, hope so, Will. If UConn goes down, Marquette is my natty pick. Marquette's definitely not my second pick after UConn. I would go with maybe Carolina or Houston, but Marquette has a shot for sure. Will says, I think the Golden Eagles will win with the pick and roll tomorrow. Tyler Cole, what a guard he is. I mean, there's a shot. I'm not saying they would have been, but Marquette maybe could have been closer to a 1 seed if Tyler Cole didn't go down with the oblique injury. Maybe they wouldn't have, but Marquette had a great year. But like they faded a little bit when he went out. But with him and Cam Jones in the backcourt and Oso Ighodaro, got a very good team. The Cam Jones-Tyler Cole backcourt is one of the most underrated in college basketball. Tyler Cole is a very good player, and I think he deserves NBA attention. The Ohio State said this is the first time Shaka Smart's team has made the Sweet 16 since VC made the Final Four in 2011. I think Marquette beat NC State by double digits tomorrow. NC State's a good team, but I think one has to remember that NC State did beat Oakland in the round of 32 to get here. It's not like they had to play like a Kentucky, a big team. I'm not saying that discredits them because obviously they beat North Carolina and Virginia in the ACC tournament. And Duke as well. And then they beat Texas Tech, who's been a perennially solid program the last few years. But then they beat Oakland in the round of 32. It's the same thing with Florida Atlantic. It's about matchups. Florida Atlantic last year got by Memphis in the first round game by 1. And then instead of having to play Purdue, they played Fairleigh Dickinson. So that helps when advancing into the tournament because of the fact that you played the smaller school. I'm not saying that matters all the way because Oakland was good. They almost beat NC State. But I think Marquette is going to be a wake-up call for the Wolfpack. They're going to have to play a fantastic game if they're going to win. Sorgy Story said the number one thing was him learning that he can't control everything as a coach, talking about Shaka Smart. I mean, that's true. That's a really good statement for sure because there's a lot more aspects of the game. I mean, you've seen a lot of coaches say that in March, it's the players' game because your players have to play well. You as a coach, you got to draw up plays. You got to do a lot of things, but sometimes your players just got to make plays, and if they don't, you're just not going to win. Will says if Illinois plays as well as they're playing tonight against UConn, an upset is possible. I mean, that could happen. I mean, if Illinois can get by Iowa State is a dangerous team. And a win over the Cyclones, I think, would make a lot of people believe that Illinois is a legit team. And they could. With a big win over Iowa State, you never know. They might have the confidence to beat a team like UConn. And maybe UConn would overlook them a bit. But they got to get by Iowa State first. Still a lot of time left in that one, but you never know. Sorgy Story said, yeah, I picked UConn, but I think Illinois can get a win. It's definitely possible, but the second half is back on. 19:50 to go in the second half. First shot for Alabama by Mark Sears is off the mark, but Alabama got the offensive rebound. Then Rylan Griffin missed a 3, and then Bama got another offensive rebound. Now Mark Sears cutting in the lane. Someone passes it to him, and he lays it in. I think Aaron Estrada is the one that made the pass. That's a very good play by Sears. 54-48. And then an illegal screen by Armando Bacot. Could this be the start of a run by Alabama? They can get hot in a hurry on the offensive side of the ball. Hubert Davis looking a little bit concerned over on the sideline. They said this year Alabama in their wins has been +7 on the boards, and in their losses they've been -2. So rebounding has been key for Bama this season. And Alabama is also 4-8 this season when trailing at half. So you would think those statistics would favor Carolina a little bit, but Alabama is rebounding well. Carolina is usually one of the best rebounding teams in college basketball, but Bama is holding their own in that regard. Illinois currently up 34-24 on Iowa State, 1 to go. But in the Carolina game, it's 54-48, 19 to go, and a turnover from Bama. R.J. Davis with the ball. Dribbling around, kicks to Elliot Cadeau. Cadeau driving into the lane, Thought about passing it to Cormac Ryan, but faked it. Now it's back to Cadeau. 15 on the shot clock. Cadeau off the dribble. Kicks to Cormac, and his shot's off the mark. It looked like it was good. But Cormac Ryan with the offensive rebound. Over to Cadeau again. Back to Cormac. The passing is insane on this possession. RJ for three, and he can't make the shot. But Baycott with another offensive rebound. I was praising Bama on the glass. Now Carolina's eating him up again. Cadeau misses. Tapped out by Baycott, but finally Bama gets it. Sears back the other way. He gets cut off. Kicks to Pringle, and his layup's off the mark. And Baycott with the board. What a rebound by Baycott. Looked like Pringle might have had a shot to get that one. But then Baycott tapped it away to himself. Baycott's a smart player. That's what happens when you're a senior. Seniors are ready for March. Freshmen struggle a lot in March, but seniors, they've been here before. Very smart play by Baycott. Now Cadeau down the floor. And then a turnover. Cadeau's a good player, but a freshman mistake by Cadeau. He drove the baseline, and he had nowhere to go with the ball. Bama cut him off. Pretty good defense by the Crimson Tide. And Carolina hasn't scored yet in the second half. They've been stuck at 54. I'm sure Cadeau will figure it out. He's shaking his head. He's trying to shake it off. That's what you got to do. One of the most important things as a player is you can't let a bad mistake turn into 2 bad mistakes or 3 bad mistakes. You just got to let it go behind you. Let it pass. Cadeau's got 8 points. He's had a pretty solid game. But Sears off the dribble. His shot's off the mark. Had a decent look. And they're going to call a foul on Grant Nelson on the rebound attempt for hooking Baycott. He does not agree with the call. But I think he did. Sorgi Story says every other major conference over the Big Ten. Will says, why the hate? And Sorgi says the other styles of play entertain me more. Just me, though. I agree. The Big Ten can be frustrating to watch with the foul, a lot of foul calls. I mean, it's just the style of play with sometimes teams having 1 or 2 bigs out there. Indiana was not necessarily a fun team to watch this past season. Mike Woodson needs to do a better job getting guards that are fun to watch. That's what the SEC, that's what the ACC at times, some of the teams, but definitely the SEC and the Big 12, they got it in spades. Teams with a lot of guards, and the teams can run up and down the floor. But both teams were fighting for the board down there, and it looked like Mohamed Diabate and Baycott kind of getting into it a little bit. Just not necessary. Kind of need to chill out a little bit. Baycott on the block with Diabate on him. And Baycott working Diabate. That is a grown man move from Armando Baycott. He just took Diabate on the block, basically just shoved him back, but did it without pushing off. Very good play by Baycott. Sorgi Story says Illinois is an exception, though their offense is elite. Yeah, another team is fun to watch as well, Sorgi, will be Iowa. Iowa usually has a good offense, but their defense isn't fun to watch because they don't have a good defense, but their offense is good. Indiana, when they had Tom Crean, was fun to watch on offense, but ever since then, no. Michigan State used to be pretty fun, but other than that, just not a lot of teams that have good offenses, or at least enjoyable to watch offenses. Sorgi Story says, speaking of the Big Ten, how about AJ Storr leaving Wisconsin? Yeah, that's a tough blow. Tough blow. I think AJ Storr might go to Illinois. That's been the hot topic, but Will says he could go to Marquette, but tough loss for Wisconsin. He had a good year. Wonder why he's leaving. I mean, I don't know if it's NIL or maybe just a more attractive offense, but I don't know why he went to Wisconsin anyway if the offense was the concern, but he did have a good season. 17-21 to go in the second half. Nate Oates is going off at the refs. Very upset. But, I mean, Diabate did foul Baycott. I mean, he didn't give him any space. Baycott hit the first free throw, missed the second, and Cadeau with the offensive rebound. Carolina starting to dominate the glass. RJ misses a 3, and Grant Nelson, he gets the rebound. And I think they called a foul this time on Carolina on that rebound attempt. So Carolina a little too zealous to try to get that rebound, and they were not in position to get it. Sorgi Story says, folks, I'm going to head out for a bit. I'll be back in a few minutes. Appreciate that, Sorgi Stories. Hope to see you back. It's been nice having you in chat tonight. But 17 to go in the second half, 55-48. Bama down by 7. They need some points. They've been holding Carolina. The Tar Heels have only scored 1 point in the second half. But Alabama hasn't scored much either until that point. Sam Walters inside, nice backdoor cut, 55-50, 5-point game. Harrison Ingram on the other side, on the right block, trying to back down Walters. He's got a weight advantage there. And now there is a little bit of a tangle up between Mark Sears and Cadeau. Don't know who initiated that. It looks like it's going to be a foul on Sears, I would believe. Oh, man, Sears just trucked Elliot Cadeau. That's not a good foul. I don't know if he's trying to, like, set a screen, an off-ball screen, but that was definitely not clean at all whatsoever. Now we got R.J. Davis. The play has resumed, kicking it to Ingram in the lane. Ingram with a step back. That's a tough shot. Probably not the look Carolina was looking for, and he's off the mark. Bama back the other way. 16-10 to go in the second half. Inside, going up with it's Diabate. He's off the mark, and it looked like he might have fouled Cadeau. No call. Diabate still all over Cadeau, and a foul is called. That is just not good defense by Mohamed Diabate. I don't understand why you're going to run with Cadeau all the way down the floor. You're on his hip. You're fouling him all over the place. Just not a smart play. That is a terrible basketball play by Mohamed Diabate. Just no reason to do that with R.J. Davis. And R.J. Davis sold the contact. Cadeau doing a good job as well. I mean, it's just not a smart play, though. Diabate is a very foul-prone player. He's got 3 fouls. Now Cadeau for 3, off the mark. Not the shot Carolina was looking for. Both teams are struggling right now, especially Carolina on offense. Now back the other way. Aaron Estrada with the ball. Natos did the right thing getting Diabate out of the game. He's not playing all that well. But Estrada, he's playing well. What a shot off the glass by Aaron Estrada. Cuts the lead by Carolina down to 3. Tar Heels with the ball. Ingram over to R.J. Davis. R.J. Davis and Elliot Cadeau are doing a really good job generating contact against Alabama. The issue with Alabama is I feel like Alabama commits a lot of unnecessary fouls because of their hand placement. I think you could argue that Cadeau did kind of sell the contact with Diabate, but if he did not have his hand on Cadeau's side when he's running down the floor, that foul would have never been called. So it's just about keeping your hands in the right place. And if the ball's, when it's dribbled, that's when you can possibly go for a steal. But Diabate was not in position there. That's something Alabama's going to have to work on next season with some of their players, like if some of the guys return. But if they have new players, I think Alabama just doesn't commit necessarily good fouls. It's not that they're a super foul-prone team, but when they do commit fouls, just not the greatest fouls. Stephen Cherry says ACC is having a strong tourney. And, I mean, it's good for the ACC because of the fact that they're a conference that a lot of people have kind of been down on lately because of the fact that when you look at in the past how they used to get 6 and 7 and 8 teams in the tournament, they have not been getting as many teams in the tournament lately. But this year, the teams that got in, they're doing well. Carolina still alive for now. Duke still alive. Clemson still alive. They didn't have a lot of teams get in, but the ones that are in, they're advancing. Virginia, that was ugly. That was the only, I guess, black mark on the ACC. That was not a good performance by the ACC with Virginia. Virginia should not have gotten in. And I know it's tough to justify that a team should not have gotten in just because of one game. But, I mean, Virginia had an absolutely horrendous performance against Colorado State. And if they played that game 9 out of 10 times, I think Virginia doesn't win. Just because their offense is as poor as it is. I know Virginia's defense, when it's on a roll, they can win games low scoring. They beat Wake Forest like 49-47, but man, Virginia just had a lot of performances this year where their offense was so bad. They just did not look like a tournament team. But other than Virginia, the ACC has looked very good in the tournament. I think it's more important, to be honest. It's not how many teams you get in the tournament. It's how many teams advance in the tournament. I think that's more important. So the ACC might not have got a lot of teams in compared to the Big 12 and the SEC, but they're getting teams far in the tournament, and that's all that matters. Will says, yes, but who else should have gotten in? Pittsburgh had a case. Wake Forest kind of did as well until the end. Pittsburgh maybe, but yeah, that's about it. I think just a lot of the teams on the bubble just because the ACC was kind of down, I guess you would say overall, especially when it comes to metrics, they were kind of down. That the ACC just didn't get a lot of big wins. So there wasn't a lot of big wins for those bubble teams to get, and that's why a lot of those teams didn't get in. But the ACC, especially in the tournament, has proved to be a better conference than one would believe. Will says Nebraska's fun too. That's true. Nebraska with Keisei Tominaga. He was so fun to watch this season. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, by far having one of their best teams lately, or if in program history. I mean, they were an explosive team. Nebraska not known for basketball, but unfortunately the Cornhuskers ended up falling in the NCAA tournament to Texas A&M, but they still had a good year. Armando Bacot, though, battling on the glass, and he gets the shot to fall finally after like 3 attempts. Alabama, to their credit, made it tough on Bacot, but he persevered in the end. Carolina with their first field goal of the second half. It took them 5 minutes to do it. Grant Nelson, though, with a sick reverse. What a play by Grant Nelson. 57-54, 14:50 to go in the second half. In the Illinois-Iowa State game, that game is at 36-26 at the half. Carolina up 10, but with 14:45 to go in the second half. Carolina up by 3 points. Bama giving them a great game. And they just called an offensive foul on Armando Bacot, and he does not agree. He does not agree with the refs. Did he push off? That's the key. Did he push off there trying to get that rebound? I think he might have a little bit, but Jaron Stevenson might have sold the contact. Looks like both teams are good at selling contact. Cadeau might have sold a little bit on Diabate, even though that was still a bad foul. But then Jaron Stevenson for Alabama selling that contact on Bacot. But I think he did foul him. He did kind of push off. Wasn't really necessary either. Bacot. I mean, he kind of had decent positioning, but I get it. It's tough sometimes when you're battling on the glass not to push off because you're wanting to do everything you possibly can to get that rebound. But at the end of the day, Bacot just can't pick up unnecessary fouls like that. Grant Nelson, though. Grant Nelson battling inside for Alabama. And he's going to the line. And he's a decent free throw shooter. Pretty good free throw shooter for a 6'11 guy. I think he shoots around 70 to 72%, somewhere in that range. But if he can hit these 2 free throws, that could cut this game down to 1 point. Grant Nelson, low-key, having a good game. 7 points and 11 boards. He's doing a good job on the glass. His first free throw is good. 57-55. And his second free throw is up and good as well. So we got a 1-point game, 57-56. Every time it looks like the Tar Heels are going to start pulling away a little bit, Bama chips away at it. They've cut it back to 1. Can Carolina respond? Harrison Ingram, top of the key, kicks to Cormac Ryan in the lane. Cormac Ryan's got nowhere to go. Kicks to Seth Trimble. Trimble dribbling to nowhere to go with it. Takes a turnaround step back, and it's an air ball. Not a good shot by Seth Trimble. I know he didn't really have much to do with it there, but that's not a good shot. Now in the lane, Aaron Estrada kicks to Sam Walters for 3, and Sam Walters knocks down the triple. What a shot by Sam Walters, the freshman, impacting the game for the Crimson Tide. 11-2 run for Bama in the last 3 minutes, and North Carolina's been stone cold since the start of the second half. Seth Trimble with the ball, driving inside, kicks out to Harrison Ingram. Ingram driving in, nowhere to go. Kicks to Cormac Ryan for a long 2. His shot's off the mark, and Estrada with the board. Carolina's ice cold. We thought they were going to hit triple digits, but the way they're playing, they might not get to 100. Mark Sears driving in. Over to Stevenson for the 3, and Stevenson can hit that shot, but he's not able to hit it there. Now Carolina going back the other way. Only 3 points for Carolina in the last 6.5 minutes. I mean, who would have thought Carolina would have had a run like that? But like I said, teams can go on cold streaks during games. That's why my prediction was 84-81 Carolina. The offense has disappeared for UNC. Where is it going to come from? And it comes in the form of Harrison Ingram off the glass. What a shot by Ingram. 59 all. We're all tied up. 12 points for Ingram. What a game in the Sweet 16. This looks like a Final Four game. Grant Nelson through the legs, dribbling around, gets himself in trouble, ball on the ground, and it's a top with Carolina having the possession arrow. Good defense by North Carolina. Grant Nelson just tried to do a little bit too much there. You can't dribble it into two defenders, especially when you are a guy that's not a fantastic dribbler. We know that Grant Nelson has some handles, but he's still not a guy that you want to be dribbling in the lane with multiple defenders on him, and Carolina took advantage of that mistake. 12:31 to go in the second half. Substitutions, I think, are being made, and you got to make them. Both teams have to be gassed, running up and down the floor. The scoreboard doesn't really reflect it, though, because the offense has disappeared, especially for North Carolina. Carolina was up 54-46 at the half. Looked like Carolina was going to easily reach 100, but their offense is dried up. Starting to figure things out a little bit, though. Ingram just got a bucket, but North Carolina cannot continue to be this cold on offense and expect to win, because Alabama is eventually going to go on a big enough flurry that it's going to put Carolina in the dust. Carolina's got to start getting it going on offense. Seth Trimble with the ball, kicks over to Cormac Ryan, who's had a good game. Ryan, crossover dribble. It's not really his game, but he's got a speed advantage on his defender, Jaron Stevenson, and he misses the floater. Bama with the board. Mark Sears running the floor, kicks to Pringle, back to Sears. Sears spin move, almost loses the ball, and there's a foul on Jalen Withers, the Louisville transfer. Timeout on the floor, under 12 timeout. We're all tied up at 59 apiece. Carolina, though, the offense for North Carolina this season has been really fun to watch. But when R.J. Davis, at times, when he is not playing all that well, Carolina's offense can disappear. And this is one of those times. If North Carolina is going to get back going on offense, they need to get a little bit more production from R.J. Davis, because they're not getting it from the other guys. Baycott and Ingram are the only two players that have hit a shot in the second half for the Tar Heels. But Cormac Ryan, excellent first half for Cormac Ryan, but he's gone cold. He has gone cold. And then you look at a guy like Elliot Cadeau. He had some big buckets in the first half. He is not making any shots in the second half. And the bench, who has been solid for North Carolina this season in some of their biggest wins, not tonight. You're not getting any production from Seth Trimble. You're not really getting any production from Jalen Washington or Jalen Withers. And I don't think that can continue. I think if R.J. Davis is going to continue to be kind of cold, because he has been pretty off in this game, hasn't hit a lot of shots, then those other guys are going to have to step up. With Alabama, Mark Sears had a really good first half. He's kind of cooled off. Haven't really called his name a lot in the second half, but his teammates are getting it done. Aaron Estrada's made some big buckets. We've seen Sam Walters hit a big three in the corner, the freshman. So Alabama's got other guys making shots. Grant Nelson's had some big moments. I think he's close to a double-double. He's got like 9 points, 12 boards. He's playing well. So Alabama is doing what Carolina's not doing at this point, and they've got multiple guys impacting the game. Will says if Iowa had their basketball offense and football defense, they would be elite. I mean, you're absolutely right, Will. I'm sure so many Iowa fans wish that. I'm sure that so many Iowa fans have made that connection, Will, that if you just blended their offense on their basketball team and the defense on their football team, man, they'd be so good. Whether it was their basketball team or their football team that had that good of an offense and defense on either side of the ball, I mean, they'd be a fantastic squad. But unfortunately, Iowa's got a slightly above average football team most years, which that could change now being in the Big Ten with the new teams being added, no divisions, just not being in the West anymore. And then their basketball teams just kind of always been average. But I mean, I guess it's better to be somewhat average in both, I guess. I mean, I'm sure that most schools would prefer to have one of their teams, whether it's like football or basketball, be elite and the other not that good, than have both be average. But at least Iowa basketball and Iowa football is never garbage. I mean, at least both are competitive and they win games. But it would be so much better for Iowa if one, whether their football or their basketball team, had a situation like that. I agree, Will. It's a fantastic observation. But Alabama, though, they're going to be inbounding the ball, because even though Carolina fouled, neither team's in the bonus yet. Even though North Carolina's getting close. Carolina's got 6 fouls. Alabama has 5. So Carolina cannot foul Bama again, or they're going to be putting the Crimson Tide to the foul on every single foul. Jaron Stevenson with the ball. Kicks to Estrada. Bama trying to take the lead. Estrada with a step back two, and he scores over Paxton Wojcik. That wasn't an easy shot, but Estrada had great body control on that shot. He's got 14 points. He's having a solid game, helping out Mark Sears in the backcourt. Now we've got RJ Davis, who's been quiet. Is he going to heat up? Kicks to Cormac Ryan. Over to Withers, who's been very quiet in this game. Back to Cormac for three. His shot's off. Jaron Stevenson with the board. Cormac Ryan had a good look, but he is cold in the second half. He played better in the first half. Sears is off the mark, and Bama misses the putback attempt by Pringle. And now Pringle is hobbling a little bit. Nick Pringle had an easy putback attempt for Alabama. Couldn't get it to fall, but it does look like Carolina fouled Alabama. So now Carolina's in the bonus. That is not ideal for the Tar Heels. You do not want to be in the bonus with 11 minutes to go in the second half. That's just so much time left for Alabama to be going to the foul line every time there's a foul. Yeah, it looks like Pringle rolled his ankle a little bit. Hopefully he will be okay for the Crimson Tide. And what's also impressive for Alabama is that Latrell Wrightsell, a guy that averages like 9 points per game for Alabama, he's not even playing in this game. Alabama did miss the free throw, though, so it's still a tie game. The Crimson Tide had a chance to take the lead. But the Tar Heels, with the ball, needing a bucket. They've been so cold. RJ Davis down the lane, he scores. So it's 61 all, 10:40 to go in the second half. RJ Davis, he needed that bucket. It's got to get going. Sam Walters in the corner. His shot is off the mark. Cormac Ryan saves it, kicks to RJ Davis. Now Carolina down the floor. RJ Davis looks like he's got that juice back in him. He misses the layup. Ingram misses the putback. Withers misses another putback. Now over to RJ Davis. His shot's off the mark. Ball's out of bounds off of Alabama. Man, when this game gets crazy, it gets crazy. You just can't keep up with the amount of movement on the floor. Both teams passing the ball everywhere. Let's see who it's off of. I think it's off of Alabama. I think it looks like it's off of Stevenson. It's close. Did they change the call? I think the referees just changed the call. It looks like now they're giving it to Alabama. I thought it was off Alabama. I thought they had it right. But maybe from my vantage point, it's not. Hubert Davis doesn't like that they switched the call because usually, I mean, you can't review stuff until under 2 minutes. But I guess the refs talked it through and the other refs saw that it was off of Carolina somehow. So now Alabama's got the ball. It looked like it was the other way, but if you're the Tar Heels, you got to move on. Mark Sears with the ball over to Aaron Estrada off the dribble. Estrada driving in with a floater. Couldn't get it to fall, but that's a pretty good look for Estrada. And then Mohamed Diabate with another bad foul. Every time Nate Oates brings Mohamed Diabate into the game, he commits a bad foul. He's got 4 fouls now, but there is no reason to foul on that play. I get it. You're trying to go for the rebound, but you're not going to get it. Carolina had the vantage point. So Alabama probably needs to take Diabate out of the game. Looks like Nate Oates might be leaving him in, but he's going to foul out. I'd be shocked if he doesn't foul out, unless Nate Oates does take him out and he's still got 4 fouls. Diabate on the block with Baycott. If I'm Carolina, I'm going to Baycott because Diabate cannot defend without fouling. Now over to Wojcik. Baycott setting a screen. RJ Davis off that screen trying to drive into the lane. And I think there might be a foul this time on Rylan Griffin. So Alabama's starting to get into a little bit of foul trouble here. Both teams are in the bonus. So this game could come down to which team hits their free throws better in this game. I know it's been a frenetic game, but it's starting to slow down a bit because we're getting more fouls called, both teams being way too physical, which on the one hand, I mean, you like the physicality because it is a Sweet 16 game. Both teams playing hard, but you have to defend smartly. You can't just keep reaching in and committing these silly fouls. Both teams have committed silly fouls. But RJ Davis averaging 21 points per game this season. And in this game, he's only got 4. He just scored his 5th point of the game at the free throw line, but he's only scored to this point before that free throw 4 points, and he's averaged 21 points per game. So you could argue that's actually good for Carolina, that they're currently winning this game now by 2 points after RJ Davis hit the second free throw. They're winning by 2 points with RJ Davis only having 6 points. So if RJ can get going, Carolina might have a shot to be able to pull away, but Sears can get hot as well, so we'll have to see. RJ is only 2 of 14 from the field. That has to be one of his worst shooting performances of the season. Sometimes the tournament can bring out a poor shooting night from a great player. At Alabama, the ball was off of Mark Sears. Nate Oates does not like what he is seeing from his team right there. Mark Sears driving into the lane, and he did not watch his feet. It's good defense from RJ Davis. He didn't foul. I don't know. I don't know what the call is. Maybe it was a travel because he didn't step out. I don't know what the call is. It could have been a travel. Paxton Wojcik for North Carolina knocks down the 3, and the Tar Heels lead by 5. 66-61. Bama needs a bucket down the floor and a foul on Carolina. Man, this game's becoming a foul fest. But Paxton Wojcik, though, the Brown transfer, he has not been talked about a lot this season for Carolina. Has not played a lot, but in March Madness, he's been playing more, and he actually hit the first three-pointer for North Carolina in the second half, which is crazy. You would think R.J. Davis, Cormac Ryan, Harrison Ingram, even maybe Elliot Cadeau would have knocked down a 3 before Paxton Wojcik, but Paxton Wojcik gets it done. Big shot from him. To help a team win, especially when your star player it doesn't have a lot of points, you need contributions from everybody that enters the game. But Alabama, though, just missed a big free throw. The Crimson Tide cannot be missing free throws, especially with them being down right now, and Carolina starting to heat up on the offensive end. But Alabama does knock down the second free throw, so it's 66-62, 9 to go in the second half. R.J. Davis with the ball. Bama, 8 of 11 at the line. Carolina, 7 of 9 at the free throw line. R.J. Davis trying to drive into the lane. Gets a little bit of separation, and he gets all the way to the rim. What a play by R.J. Davis. That's a really good play by the senior leader. R.J. Davis, one of the best point guards in college basketball, looked like it on that play. He's got 8 points. But Bama, though, Mohamed Diabate finally impacting the game in a positive way for the Crimson Tide on the glass. He knocks down his own miss. It's 68-64. RJ kicks down low to Baycott for the slam. What a play by R.J. Davis. And since R.J. Davis got that layup, it made Alabama chin up on defense, and that's what created that dunk. But then on the other end, North Carolina making a big mistake, leaving Rylan Griffin open, and he cashes in on a 3. Rylan Griffin, if you leave him wide open, he's going to make you pay. 70-67. The offense is starting to come back to life in this one. 8:10 to go. UNC with a 3-point lead. Will indeed, he says it's crazy that Cormac Ryan is 25 and still in college basketball. We're almost done with the grad students playing next season. It's the last one. Yeah, it's unbelievable, Will. I mean, with some of these guys playing in 5 and 6, and I've even seen 7 years of college basketball in some instances. I don't even know how that happens. You have to have like a medical red shirt, and then like just tons of stuff's got to happen. You had the pandemic year, and then like I don't know if you somehow get another medical red shirt. I don't know how you get 7 years. Maybe it's like you transferred up from junior college, but I've seen some 7-year college players, and I think that's the biggest reason why John Calipari with the Kentucky Wildcats, even Duke to an extent, but Duke's got a little bit more experience usually than Kentucky does. The freshmen, it is tough to win in March with freshmen now because these guys, they're not old, but I mean, they're 24, 25, 23 years old. They've been playing in college basketball for 3, 4, 5 seasons plus, and they've been in March Madness probably before several times, and they have that experience. I mean, literally the Oakland guy that transferred up to Oakland from a Division II school, he was like 24 years old. Goalkey. So it's like some of these experienced guys, they make a difference. They absolutely make a difference on some of these teams. And I think it's made it harder for freshmen. Now, will that change now that you're going to have no more of the extra years anymore? After next year, like you said, the grad students are going to be gone. Will that change? I don't know. Possibly. It's very well possible that it could help freshmen out, but I'm not sure. I mean, it does seem like more guys, though, in general, are staying longer in college basketball due to NIL in the portal. Like, you don't have to immediately go off to the NBA like some of these players used to do. even if they weren't ready, they would go off to the NBA because of the fact, well, I could be a second-round pick. I'm going to get a contract in the NBA. Now, if you're not certain that you're going to get a guaranteed contract or you're not certain you're going to get drafted, then you can come back to college, get a good NIL deal at a good school, and like you might even be making more than you would have made if you went pro. So that's why it's just tougher on these teams that predominantly play freshmen. I mean, it's not that you can't win. It's just it's become even harder. But maybe now that you're going to lose the extra year players, that could help the teams that have more freshmen a little bit. Jackson says, let's go Crimson Tide. Yes, Jackson, Bama is starting to heat up a little bit. Carolina, though, as well. They're starting to play better. Carolina's hit 11 threes in this game. Bama's hit 9. But Carolina has gone cold until the last couple minutes. Carolina 7-9 at the line, Bama 8 of 11. I think both teams need to take advantage of the other team being in foul trouble. Like, I know it is so tempting to continue to shoot threes. I know it is. It is so tempting, but both teams are in the bonus. If you're Carolina and Alabama, you got a lot of players that are good at free throws. RJ Davis for Carolina, Mark Sears for Bama. Get to the line, knock down your free throws. Whoever shoots and makes more free throws might end up winning this game. Can't fall in love with the three. But RJ Davis giving it to Bacot on the glass. Bacot trying to go up with it. He does, and the shot is off the mark, and there is no foul call. Tough break. Tough break for Bacot there. It looked like he almost would have had an and one, but instead he got nothing. Now Bama on the other end shooting that three, not getting it to fall. Not taking advantage of the foul situation. Wojcik to RJ Davis for 3, and he's off the mark. Some of these teams just fall in love with the 3. Drive inside. Griffin down the floor. Kicking it back out. Bacot's on him. That's a matchup Griffin can win. Griffin going up, trying to on Bacot. He does. His shot off the mark. And there is a foul on Nick Pringle going over the back on Cormac Ron. That is good boxing out skills right there by Cormac Ron on a bigger player as well. Nick Pringle much bigger than Cormac Ron, but Cormac Ron stood his ground, got that foul. Jackson says, go for a ballroom blitz, Bama. Sorgy Stories is back. Appreciate you for returning. And Jackson says, Bama, don't pull in Arizona. Yeah, you don't want to be Arizona. They were the favorite. But I will say Bama wouldn't really be pulling in Arizona because of the fact Carolina is favored to win. I know what you mean, though. You don't lose. But Arizona should have beat Clemson. They were the favorite. Bama is an underdog, so if they won, it would be a slim surprise. I wouldn't say it would be a huge surprise, but it would be a little bit. Jackson says, if you love hearing hot takes on college football, college basketball, NFL, and the NBA, check out Only Talk Sports on these links at Twitter and Rumble. Appreciate the plug, Jackson. I tweet every single day, usually on some topics if I'm able to, on some of the biggest news going on around the college football, basketball, NFL, and NBA world if I'm not able to cover it on my YouTube channel. And I'll also have a Rumble account as well. I have a Rumble channel where I post my videos and live streams if you want to go check that out. But I do appreciate everybody for being here in the YouTube live chat. Appreciate everybody for watching as well. We got a fantastic game. But if you'd like to go check out my Twitter and Rumble, would really appreciate that. Thank you, Jackson. But yes, Bama, though, just can't pull in Arizona. Definitely can't pull in Arizona and lose. But it wouldn't be a bad loss for Alabama if they did lose. I think it would only be a bad loss for Alabama if they're like winning and then they blow it. That could happen. Like, they've had moments where they've been winning in this game. And I think Alabama, they're not taking advantage of what the game has given them. I know they've hit a lot of threes in this game, but they have Carolina in the bonus. They got them a little bit of foul trouble. And Alabama is a team that has a lot of guys that can make free throws at a pretty high level. They got guys that can drive. Mark Sears, is dangerous as he is as a three-point shooter, he's just as dangerous as a driver. So that's what we need to be seeing Alabama doing. And Carolina, it's kind of the same degree. They got a lot of guys that can make free throws as well. And it just seems like both teams, they're just kind of falling in love with the three in the second half. And that's what Arizona did. Arizona lost the game against Clemson because they kept shooting threes. There was no reason at all that they did that. Just crazy that they went out there and kept shooting all those threes when they weren't making them. Sorgy Story says, to quote Charles Barkley, Jackson being clutch by dropping links is guaranteed. Jackson is amazing posting links. He does it all the time in so many different live chats, and we appreciate Jackson so much for doing it here, and I'm sure so many other people do as well. Jackson is awesome. But they just showed the 2004 Sweet 16 game for Alabama against Syracuse, where they got their only Sweet 16 win in program history. So this would be monumental for Alabama basketball to beat North Carolina to move on to their second ever Elite Eight. But Carolina, the favorite, the program with the most all-time tournament wins, trying to keep Alabama, the new surprise team, at bay. Sorgy Stories, the Diamondbacks are winning 16-1 in the third inning. Definitely can't keep up with baseball right now during March Madness, but thanks for the update, Sorgy Stories. Diamondbacks having a great performance. But North Carolina is up by 5 over Alabama, 72-67 after those free throws. And Illinois is up 41-36 on Iowa State in the second half. But Iowa State starting to cut it a little bit. Grant Nelson with another crazy reverse. Grant Nelson's playing great. He's had a very solid game, 11 points. He's got a double-double because he's got over 10 rebounds. I like the way he's playing, and he's not settling for jump shots for the most part. Cormac Ryan kicks to Harrison Ingram. Ingram trying to drive on Estrada. Ingram going in, loses the ball, gets it back. Kicks to Baycott, and Baycott missed the dunk. Baycott would hit that 99 times out of 100, but he missed the dunk. And then Grant Nelson just missed a layup, but they're going to call a foul. 6:35 to go in the second half, but Armando Baycott missed one of the easiest shots he'll ever get. Going for the dunk. I don't know. I don't even know what happened. He didn't blow a tire on it. Like, he went up straight. It was dunking it home, but for whatever reason, he did not get that dunked ball. It looks like he just kind of somewhat lost the ball as he went up. But imagine if Carolina loses this game by like 1 point. And that dunk, that missed dunk by Baycott comes back to bite him. That would be tough. But Grant Nelson knocking down the first free throw there. His second free throw is up, and it is short. Nice rebound by Paxton Wojcik. He's giving Hubert Davis good minutes in the second half. Knocking down that big three, doing a good job on the glass. RJ Davis kicks to Baycott. Now to Ingram on the left block, driving in. Outside to Cormac Ryan. He shoots the three, and Cormac Ryan. He was hot in the first half, but he's heating back up. 75-70. 6:10 to go in the second half. Estrada kicks to Pringle. Back to Estrada. Going up with it with the left hand. Gets the friendly roll. 75-72. Bama cuts it to 3. Man, this game might be going down to the wire. Estrada's got 16 points. 5:50 to go in the second half. What a Sweet 16 matchup it's been between the Crimson Tide and the Tar Heels. Baycott driving in, trying to go up with it. He's cut off by Pringle. Now Cormac Ryan with Estrada on him. Back over to RJ, who's been fairly quiet in this game for his standards. RJ driving in, kicks to Paxton Wojcik, over to Ingram. 2 seconds on the shot clock, and his three is off the mark. Estrada down the floor to Rylan Griffin. Back to Estrada, and he cans the triple. We got a tie game, 75 all. We've had several ties in this one, but there's only 5 minutes to go now. We're getting into crunch time. And that was the first made three by Aaron Estrada. 75-75. 5 to go in the second half, and there is a foul on Nick Pringle. Not a good foul by Nick Pringle. Far away from the basket. That's the biggest issue for Bama, like I've said before. I don't think they make good fouls. When they do foul, a lot of them are just unnecessary. Now that they're in the bonus, that's going to be free throws for Carolina. Will and D says Diamondbacks trying to pull a Royals this season. That's funny. Jackson says it's funny when Bama lost to UCLA 2021 and when they lost to San Diego State last season, they both went to the Final Four. If Bama loses to UNC, then it guarantees UNC goes to the Final Four. Well, people have been saying Clemson. A lot of people have been saying Clemson because South Carolina made the Final Four run back in 2017 when they weren't expected to. Could another South Carolina team do it in Clemson? I don't think so, though. I mean, to me, I think if Alabama or Carolina wins this game, they got a better shot than Clemson to win the game and move on to the Final Four. But that's an interesting stat there, Jackson, that every time Bama loses to a team, that team goes to the Final Four. That could be good news for North Carolina. Bad news for Clemson possibly, but hey, maybe Clemson can pull that South Carolina. We'll have to see. There's so many different narratives you can take. That's why we love March Madness. Never know what's going to happen. But RJ hits both free throws, so now he's got 10 points. And then Paxton Wojcik on the other end fouls Grant Nelson. That's a tough matchup for Paxton Wojcik, though, because Grant Nelson has a major height advantage on Paxton Wojcik. Grant Nelson 6'11". Paxton Wojcik's like 6'4", maybe, backing him down. Yeah, he fouled him on the side. That was not a good foul. I mean, he's trying to prevent a layup. I get that, but maybe he wouldn't even have hit the shot. This game hasn't completely become a foul fest because both teams are still shooting threes, but literally all these two teams have to do is just drive into the lane. They're going to get the friendly whistle more often than not, more than likely. Grant Nelson, though, an 81% free throw shooter. He's better than I thought. I thought he was in the 70s, but he's shooting 81%. And he knocks down both free throws. We're all knotted up again at 77 apiece. Illinois is now at 46-39 on Iowa State with 13 to go. But 4:40 to go in the second half. Can RJ Davis make something happen for the Tar Heels? Step back three, and it's in and out. It looked like that shot was halfway down, but it went out. And now Bama with a chance to regain the lead. RJ Davis, though, with 10 points, but he's 3 of 17 from the field. Hasn't hit a three yet. Grant Nelson driving in, and what a game by Grant Nelson. He is on fire in the second half, 79-77. Nelson with 16 points on only 4 of 6 shooting as well. He's hit most of his free throws. RJ Davis trying to get to Cormac. Sears was trying to draw a foul. He's not going to get the whistle. Baycott driving in. Baycott loses the basketball. Jaron Stevenson ends up with it. Now over to Rylan Griffin. 3:50 to go in the second half. Scores here. Tar Heels might be in a little bit. Grant Nelson with the basketball, top of the key. He's been on fire. Will he dare to shoot it? And he will. And he knocks down the three. Alabama's up by 5. 82-77. Carolina brings it up the floor, and RJ calls timeout. What a shot by Grant Nelson. Grant Nelson is literally on fire. He is single-handedly helping the Crimson Tide get this lead over Carolina. UNC's in trouble. Will the 1 seed go down to the number 4 seed Alabama Crimson Tide, a team that's only been to the Elite Eight one time in their entire history? Will Carolina fall? Jackson says no to sell Bet on the Dykes to win it all for the 2024 season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with baseball. Jackson says, come on, Crimson Tide. Your Crimson Tide are looking good, Jackson. Like I said, I like Bama too. If they win, I'll be very happy for Alabama. But North Carolina, down by 5. They still got enough time. They got a lot of juice. They got a lot of firepower in that offense. So I'm not counting out North Carolina. But it definitely looks like Alabama has a legitimate shot to win this game and move on to the Elite Eight, where they will face Clemson. That would be an interesting game because whoever wins this game, Clemson has already beat both these teams. So could Clemson beat Alabama again if they faced each other in the Elite Eight? I don't know if they can. It's going to be tough. Alabama's a very good team, very good offensive team. But the key is going to be, can Clemson exploit Bama's defense? Carolina has at times, but Alabama, their offense is just so explosive. You just don't want to catch them on a night when they're on fire. And right now, they're on fire. This team's kind of like that Auburn team for Bruce Pearl that went far, but I think that Auburn team was a bit better at defense than Alabama. But that Auburn team could just get hot in a hurry and bury like 16 threes in a game. It was incredible. Sorgy Story says Bama. So everybody excited about Alabama being up by 5 could possibly knock out the Blue Blood Tar Heels in the Sweet 16. This would be on the point spread, it was not a big upset. If Alabama beats Carolina, it's not an insane upset because Carolina was only favored by 4.5. But based off history, it would be a massive upset because Carolina has the most tournament wins all time. Alabama has only been to 1 Elite Eight. So, going off of history, this is insane for Alabama to win. But Alabama is just such a better team now than they used to be in the past. Nate Oates has brought juice to this team, to a school that is predominantly known for football. in the Alabama Crimson Tide. And Alabama basketball last few years has become fun to watch. And they could get one of their biggest wins in their program history. Not that they haven't gotten big wins in the past in the regular season, but knocking off North Carolina with Carolina being a 1 seed in the Sweet 16 to advance to their second ever Elite Eight, that would just be massive stuff for Alabama. There's still enough time for Carolina. Bama can't get comfortable. Bama can't think they got the game, but they are juiced up. Grant Nelson leading the Crimson Tide in this second half. And who knows, we might be seeing a massive, massive upset here, even if it's not by the point spread, but for an historical upset for Alabama to knock off North Carolina. Can the Tar Heels respond? Game is resumed. 3:30 to go in the second half. R.J. Davis over to Jalen Withers to Baycott. If I'm Carolina, I'm driving inside. R.J. Davis off the dribble. Has nowhere to go. Kicks to Jalen Withers. Withers driving in all the way to the rim. And Jalen Withers, what a shot by the Louisville transfer. He has not had a lot of big moments in this game, but none bigger than that moment. That was a fantastic shot by Jalen Withers. Cuts the Bama lead down to 3. Nelson down the floor had the hot hand for the Crimson Tide, and his shot's off the mark. Down the floor, Cormac Ryan. Nowhere to go. He's cut off by the Bama defense that did a really good job in transition. Now R.J. Davis, who's had an awful shooting night. Can he make a big bucket? Senior guard, one of the best point guards in college basketball, in the lane, and R.J. Davis delivers 82-81. 2:40 to go in the second half, and just like that, Carolina has gotten this thing back to a 1-point game. Bama needs a bucket. R.J. Davis with 12 points, only 4 of 18 from the field. Mark Sears top of the key. Jalen Withers on. That's a matchup he can win, but he gives it up. Aaron Estrada thought about the 3. Wisely decides to drive. His shot's off the mark, and Baycott with the board. R.J. Davis down the floor. 2:10 to go in the second half. R.J. Davis is fouled by Jared Stevenson, and yet again, another bad foul from Alabama. That's the biggest problem for the Crimson Tide, is that they struggle with silly fouls. A lot of times 20 and 30, sometimes even 90 feet away from the basket trying to go for the rebounds. That's the biggest issue for Alabama, in my opinion, as a team. Other than their defense, is also that they commit silly fouls, and that's not a good foul by Alabama. No reason to foul R.J. Davis 30 feet away from the basket, giving a guy who's an 87% free throw shooter, plus a guy that's also struggled from the floor in this game, a shot to get to the line and maybe get his flow back. And that's what's going on here, because R.J. Davis knocks down the free throw, and suddenly, just like that, R.J. Davis is getting his points. He's got like 14 now, and if he hits the second, which he does, it puts Carolina back in front. 83-82, and Bama's 5-point lead has vanished. Both teams are biting their nails. Fans in the stands, they are nervous. Tar Heels fans, though, are getting back on their feet. They were very nervous a minute ago. Bama fans, definitely getting more nervous now. Can Sears make a play? He shoots the 3, and I don't like the shot from Mark Sears. Can he hit that shot? Yes, he can, but that's not the shot. Top of the key, no passing. I don't think Sears should have shot that one. 1:50 to go in the second half. R.J. Davis getting a screen from Baycott. Davis has been heating up last couple minutes. Kicks to Baycott down low. He misses the shot. Withers taps it back out, and the ball is off of Bama. Smart decision by R.J. Davis not to reach for the ball and possibly lose it out of bounds, because he felt Alabama was the last to touch. They might review this, but I don't think they're going to have to. It looks like it's pretty obvious who it was off of. Yeah, but Baycott, he just went up for that ball, and it doesn't even look like Baycott got blocked on that play. It looks like he just lost the ball. I don't know if it was the defensive presence of the Alabama defenders or what, but it looks like he just kind of lost the ball on that play. Usually Baycott has better hands than that. But it's 83-82. We're going down to the last few possessions of this Sweet 16 matchup. R.J. Davis with the ball. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Goes up with it, and there is a foul on Alabama, and RJ's going back to the line. Nick Pringle arguing that he went straight up. Did he? He didn't. He's saying he went straight up, but he didn't. He had his arm down, and he hit RJ on the shoulder. Not a good foul by Alabama yet again. These fouls are biting Bama at the worst possible time in this game. They just cannot afford these fouls. RJ Davis, 87% at the foul stripe, one of the best free throw shooters in college basketball, but it's a big moment. Can he knock these down? His first free throw is up, and it's good. 84-82. Will says it would be fun to see an upset, but I have Carolina in my bracket to win this region. Yeah, I have Carolina too. I have them advancing. I picked them against Bama, and in my bracket, I have them going to the Final Four. So it would hurt my bracket if they don't win. But RJ Davis, second free throw, it's good as well. Alabama has to have a response. They were up by 5, and now they're down by 3. An 8-0 run for the Tar Heels. RJ Davis suddenly up to 16 points. I'm telling you, he's a second-half player. Mark Sears driving in the lane, goes up strong off the glass, and that's what Mark Sears has got to do for Bama. Great play by Mark Sears. Now RJ Davis bringing the ball up the floor. Sears has 18 points. 1 to go in the second half. 85-84. RJ Davis with the ball, almost loses it. Jalen Withers. Why is Jalen Withers shooting a 3 right there? Terrible shot by Jalen Withers. That is not the shot. One of the final possessions of the Sweet 16 game potentially, and you've got Jalen Withers shooting a 3. Make that make sense. Absolutely does not make sense for Carolina. Mark Sears with the ball, though. Driving in again. He's got Cormac Ron on him. Kicks to Grant Nelson. And Grant Nelson for 2 and 1. That's what Carolina should have done on the last possession. Instead of that Withers 3. Definitely didn't need it. But now Alabama's back in front. What a game. Like Hummus Hero says, what a game. The Ohio State's back. He said this is an epic game. I agree with you guys 110%. This game might go down to the final possession. I had it going down to the final possession in my prediction. I had Carolina winning 84-81. But Alabama up by 1 point with Grant Nelson at the line to potentially make it a 2-point lead for the Crimson Tide. Withers is 4 fouls for Carolina as well. And Nelson's free throw's good. 87-85. RJ Davis bringing the ball up the floor, and there is a timeout. Timeout on the floor. 35 seconds left to play. Appreciate JP Toxic for stopping by. He says UNC frauds. I don't know even if UNC loses this game that they're necessarily frauds because Alabama is a very good team. But I get your sentiment, though. I mean, Carolina, a lot of people thought they could go to the Final Four, maybe even the national championship game if they could somehow be able, if they do face UConn later on, if they could get by them. But Carolina could go down in the Sweet 16. This would be a role reversal. Usually it's Alabama getting to the Sweet 16 and falling short. But could this be the year Alabama finally gets back to another Elite Eight? And it's going to be ironic, too, because Clemson, this is only Clemson's second Elite Eight appearance ever. And if Alabama beats Carolina, this will be their only second Elite Eight appearance. So you would have Alabama and Clemson facing each other in the Elite Eight, and both teams, it would only be their second appearance. That would be crazy. But Carolina, you can't count out Carolina. There's still time. They have the basketball. There's 36 seconds left. Can they hit a bucket? The Ohio State says, I think Alabama wins this game. Jackson says, I hope so. JP Toxic says, man, I want UNC versus Duke matchup. I mean, Carolina's got to keep winning for that to happen, and Duke does as well. But Carolina's on the rope. They are on the ropes here. 87-85. This could be one of the last possessions in the game for Carolina. They have to capitalize on this possession. They got to make a shot. I would drive it in, get it to Baycott on the block, or try to get RJ Davis to the rim. RJ Davis with the ball. 30 seconds. Bama cannot foul, something that they have struggled with all game long. Davis driving in, and the ball is out of bounds. Off of the Crimson Tide. What a block by Alabama. That's a great block. Finally, great defense. And who else? By Grant Nelson, who's had a stellar game. Carolina to inbound. Only 24 seconds left in this Sweet 16 matchup. Paxton Wojcik with the ball. Over to RJ Davis. Rylan Griffin on him. 5 seconds on the shot clock. RJ driving in. goes up strong. He misses the shot. Both teams battling for it, and there's a shot clock violation. Alabama's getting the basketball back with 8 seconds left. Unbelievable. And both teams are in the bonus plus as well. So if Carolina, they have to foul unless they can get a steal. They have to foul. Then if Alabama hits both free throws, they'll be up by 4. This is unreal. Alabama has a shot to knock off North Carolina. They're so close. Looks like the refs are going to the monitor. Maybe they're checking to see how much time's left, who it's off of. I think it's off Bama. I think it was pretty clear. But RJ, that's a tough shot. I mean, it's not the worst look in the world, but RJ was not even close to hitting that shot. Baycott trying to go for the rebound, but then it gets flipped over to Grant Nelson. But yeah, it looks like it's Bama ball. There's 8.6 seconds left, so they put another second left on the timer. But I think they called a shot clock violation anyway before the time, for the ball even went out of bounds. So I think anyway it would have been Bama ball. Yeah, so Alabama's got it, 8.6 seconds left. Estrada to inbound. Aaron Estrada kicks to Grant Nelson, and he is fouled. Grant Nelson has been fantastic for Bama in this game. If he can knock down 2 free throws and give Bama a 4-point lead, that might be all she wrote for North Carolina. Grant Nelson's been the man of the hour. He's had a great game for the Crimson Tide. Fantastic stuff from Grant Nelson. I mean, you got to give him the player of the game, in my opinion, if Alabama wins. I know Mark Sears had a pretty good game, but Grant Nelson, his flurry in the second half has been the reason why Alabama has taken the lead and been able to find a way, even when they lost the lead, to regain it back. And Grant Nelson's first free throw, it's good. 88-85. If he knocks down the second free throw, I think it's over. It's going to be basically over. Carolina fans hoping and praying for a miss. Will he miss? Grant Nelson's been clutch at the line all game long. 7 seconds left. Grant Nelson with a chance to put the Tide up by 2 possessions. And his free throw is good. 89-85. 4-point lead for Alabama, and it looks like Carolina might not be going to the Elite Eight. Carolina might fall short here. RJ driving in, kicks to Baycott, lays it in. 1 second left. Okay, 89-87. So, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the wrong move by Carolina. I mean, they could have went for a quick 3, but if they missed, it would have been over. So they went for a 2. They got the shot. So now Carolina just has to hope for a steal, because I think even if they foul, like, it's going to be almost impossible for them to do anything with it, because, like, Alabama can miss the free throw on purpose, and then Carolina's not going to have any time to chuck it at the rim. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, how this is going to be approached. But the key is that Alabama has to inbound the basketball. Alabama cannot turn it over. So it's Alabama basketball, around 1.5 seconds left in the game. Both teams in the double bonus. So if Carolina has to foul, Bama will get 2 free throws. But Bama, they basically are an inbound away from possibly sealing their second ever Sweet 16 win. Over the Tar Heels, the team has the most tournament wins all time. This would be incredible. So Alabama's running the lineup where they're like 5 out, 5 wide out. It's kind of like in football. We'll see if this works for Bama. Bama trying to inbound it. They haven't gotten it in yet. And timeout Bama. So Carolina forces a timeout from the Crimson Tide. It did not work. Nate Oates trying to get his team to do that, the football style of inbound play, but it did not work because Carolina was all over it. So a little bit more drama's got to ensue. This game's not over yet. Hummus Hero says, looks like Illinois and Iowa State is also going to be a good finish. Yeah, I'll probably stay live until the end of that game. I've been monitoring that one, but it's been close, like you said, Hummus Hero. So we might have another possible thriller in the Sweet 16, but you can't ask for much more than this performance by Alabama and just this game in general. I mean, if you love March Madness and college basketball and offensive explosions in games, this has been the game for you. It checks all the boxes. We've had fantastic offense from both teams, Carolina and Bama. Defense at times. It showed up at times. But both teams just been playing so hard. It's been an incredible game. Alabama to inbound this time. They're not doing the football style. They're just doing it the normal way, and they do get the ball inbounds. Grant Nelson, that's who Nate Oates trusts right now. It's not Mark Sears. You would think it maybe would be Mark Sears, but he's going with Grant Nelson. He's been the guy that's knocked down all the free throws for the Crimson Tide in this game in the second half. There's probably about 0.9 seconds left in this game. Carolina has no timeouts either, so they can't call a quick timeout if there's a missed free throw. So that hurts UNC as well. So if Grant Nelson knocks down both of these free throws, it's over. If he hits one, misses the second, it's probably done. The worst possible scenario that Alabama could possibly have is him missing the first and then making the second. He can't do that, because if you make the second and you're only up 3, and then Carolina can inbound, they could chuck it at the rim. You never know. There's crazier things can happen. Or if Alabama tries to stop it and there's a quick foul and Carolina gets 3 free throws. So if you're Alabama, you either need to hit both free throws or miss the second. That would be Bama's best bet. But it does look like Bama's going to be moving on to the Elite Eight. This is just a crazy performance. What a basketball game. It's been a thriller. I don't know if you can call it a classic because of the fact that usually classics involve like the Final Four of the championship game. But I think this is pretty close to a classic, though, because for Bama, at least anyway, being only possibly their second ever Elite Eight appearance. That's crazy. Nelson's first free throw, it's short. So he misses. So if you're Grant Nelson, you cannot, to me, make the second free throw. You got to miss it. I would miss it if I'm Grant Nelson and Bama. Because if you make it, you're going to give Carolina a chance to inbound this ball and chuck it at the rim. I don't think they're going to have enough time if they just have to rebound and then throw it at the rim. If you're Bama, you got to miss this free throw. Grant Nelson, he misses the second. Ingram does chuck it at the rim, but Grant Nelson blocks it. What a play by Grant Nelson. He makes the final winning play, not allowing Ingram's shot to get anywhere near the rim. And there you have it, folks. The Alabama Crimson Tide are moving on to the Elite Eight. Congratulations, Jackson. And to all the Alabama fans out there, I'm happy for Alabama. Only their second Elite Eight appearance. They're predominantly known as a football school. But what a performance by Alabama. Happy for the Crimson Tide. What a game. Sorgy Story says Bama moves on. I was not expecting it. I thought it'd be such a close game, but I thought Bama's defense, I thought it was going to let them down, but they did just enough and made a winning play in the end with Nelson blocking that half court or really three-quarter court of the floor heave. I mean, it just definitely, North Carolina had no chance. I mean, when you're trying to chuck it 85 feet at the rim and then it gets blocked, I mean, you're not going to be able to do it. So RC says, I told you only talk sports. Don't trust UNC. Don't trust UNC. I mean, it's hard not to pick against Carolina, though, because they've been reliable. They are a reliable team in March. They usually always make deep runs, and this was a very talented team. It's sad for Baycott and R.J. Davis, the seniors. What careers they have had for Carolina. Both R.J. Davis and Armando Baycott scoring over 2,000 points in Carolina history. Just so impressive what those guys have done. And it's just a tough way to go out. And a close loss to the Alabama Crimson Tide, a team that is on the come-up with Nate Oates at head coach. What a win. The Ohio State says Clemson versus Alabama feels like football season, laughing out loud. It's the same thing. I was feeling the same thing, the Ohio State, when you had Georgia and Ohio State in the NIT. It felt the same way because Georgia and Ohio State are football schools, and they're playing in a basketball game in the NIT. So you're right. Clemson, Alabama, it's like the exact same thing. For sure, with two teams that are definitely football schools that normally don't have a lot of success in basketball. And I think, again, what's even crazier is now both of these teams, only their second appearance in the Elite Eight ever in their entire history, which is unbelievable. Jackson said, thank you, Jeffrey. I'm glad history's been made. Now Bama has to focus on making their first ever Final Four in school history, which they could. I mean, Bama, to me, they're the deeper team than Clemson. Clemson's got a good team as well. I mean, their starting five is really solid, but I mean, Bama's the more explosive offensive team. Clemson might be a little bit better at defense, but that's going to be a heck of a game. I think it could really go down to the wire as well. I probably lean Bama as of now, but I'm going to make my official predictions for that game. I'll make a short of it probably tomorrow. But the problem is I can't go off my bracket because I didn't have Clemson or Alabama making it this far. I had Carolina making it, and I think Baylor. I think I had Baylor making it or something like that. So I think that it's going to be tough, just to automatically pick Bama because of the fact Clemson has played so well. So I'm definitely going to think it over. But as of now, I would lean Bama. Just if I was just making a blind guess, like a pick out of nowhere, I mean, Bama just looks better than Clemson to me. But it's going to be an interesting game. Bama cannot overlook Clemson at all if they want to go to the Final Four. But both teams, for a chance to get to their first ever Final Four, would be crazy. Awesome for both schools. Definitely happy for the Crimson Tide. RC says if Illinois keeps playing like this, they're going to get packed up. Yeah, Illinois, they were playing great basketball. I just flipped the channel over. We're watching Illinois and Iowa State till the game is over. If you guys want to stick around, appreciate everybody for being here. But Illinois, they were up by double digits in the first half, but now they're only up by 2 points. Can they hold on? Dane Danger down low for Illinois on the block, losing the basketball. Iowa State scrambling around, and they pick up the basketball, and they're running down the floor. It's crazy this game's been low scoring. Iowa State's usually a really good offensive team. I know Iowa State's a good defensive team, which you think would have made Illinois scoring lower, which it has. But Illinois' defense, it's good, but Iowa State's usually able to persevere through and score more points than this. Because even against Houston, who's like the best defensive team in college basketball, Iowa State had like 70-something points, and they only got 51 with 5 to go. So both teams just must be playing fantastic on defense, or maybe the offense is dried up, but still, crazy stuff. Will says, congrats to Jackson. Definitely for sure. Then you've got Will saying RJ may come back. I didn't know RJ had another year left. I thought he'd been in college for 5 years, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 4 years. I'll look at that real quick. He could be right. Well, if he has another year, that'd be great. I'd love to see RJ back at North Carolina. I mean, he's not really on any draft boards because of the fact that, he's short and he's a senior, and we know that the NBA draft usually likes taller guys and guys that are freshmen. But yeah, okay, he's only played in 4 years. You're right. RJ Davis, 4 years. He could come back. That's a possibility. Baycott, though, he can't come back at all, but that's going to be interesting. I hope RJ does return. Jackson said, who would have thought on November 28th that Bama Clemson would have an Elite Eight rematch? I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, I know even probably you didn't think so, Jackson. I mean, I thought Bama could get to an Elite Eight, possibly. Possibly. Their defense concerned me, but I thought they could do it. But Clemson, nobody thought Clemson was going to go to the Elite Eight. I mean, it's Clemson. I mean, Brad Brownell's been there forever, and they've never been able to advance. They've never had tournament success, but finally, Brad Brownell saving his job. His job is absolutely safe, which is crazy to me because I think when you have a coach on the hot seat and it looks like that coach is going to get fired, usually the pressure eventually becomes too much and that coach ends up getting the boot eventually. But Brad Brownell has just somehow been able to avoid that. Like he's kept his job this long. And we know Clemson's a football school, so it is tough, to, I guess, you expect much from Clemson basketball. But, I mean, Brad Brownell, you could argue several years ago could have been fired. I thought he might have been gone 3 years ago, but he kept getting retained. And now it's paid off for Clemson because they're in the Elite Eight. It's going to be crazy. Illinois, though, 9 of 21 at the line. So if Illinois had been hitting their free throws, they would be up by more against Iowa State. Curtis Jones for the Cyclones is 21 points. So he's by far having the best night for the Cyclones. But Illinois, struggling at the foul line. They've actually been a fairly solid free throw shooting team this season, but not tonight. But Terrence Shannon in the corner. You cannot leave Terrence Shannon open. One of the biggest bucket getters in college basketball. He can get hot in a hurry. He's got 23 points. So we got 4:50 to go in the Illinois-Iowa State Sweet 16 matchup. Down low, you've got a bucket by Iowa State, so it's 59-56. Cyclones trying to hang tough. Still plenty of time for both teams. King for the Cyclones is 8 points. Now Marcus Damask at the top of the key for Illinois. He's been a really good player for Brad Underwood this season. Luke Goody for 3, and he knocks it down. Illinois splashing home a triple. What a shot. Luke Goody's not normally a player that plays too much for Illinois, but he's coming in clutch in the Sweet 16 with a big 3 right there. 62-56, and TJ Otzelberger, he's seen enough. He calls timeout. That's a big shot, though, by Goody. I mean, he's a guy that's been in college basketball for a couple seasons now, so it's not like he's an inexperienced player by any means, but still, just not really a guy that you would expect to hit a big shot like that at this moment of a game in the tournament in the Sweet 16. RC says Alabama and Clemson moving on. What's this football? Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Will says Terrence Shannon's 4 fouls. Cyclones cut the Illini lead to 2. So Terrence Shannon being in foul trouble, that's not good for Illinois. But it might not matter because of the fact if Illinois can just keep the lead, and if Iowa State has to foul toward the end of this game, and as long as Shannon don't pick up his 5th, then Illinois could be okay. But I know Iowa State, they can score quickly. They're another one of those teams. They're not like Bama, of course, but they are a team that can, if they just get hot, they can start splashing home a couple of triples. They can come back. They're not done yet. And what's crazy is that I picked Iowa State to win this game. I almost picked Illinois. I was very close to picking Illinois, but I went Cyclones, thought they would get it done. That's what I had happening in my bracket. But Iowa State could fall short. I obviously got UConn right. I wasn't picking San Diego State to beat UConn. And UConn, they floored the Aztecs. That game was nowhere near as good as the championship game last year. The championship game really wasn't that close. UConn dominated pretty well, but tonight they destroyed San Diego State. Aztecs are a good team, but definitely no match for UConn. And then with Clemson, I mean, I definitely didn't pick Clemson to win. So, I mean, I'm not having a great night overall. Arizona let me down. I had a feeling they would, but I still went with Arizona. And then I picked Carolina. They let me down. Now Iowa State, Illinois. If Iowa State loses, I'll be 1 for 3 tonight. Definitely struggling in March Madness. It's tough to make March Madness predictions, though. I mean, that's why when they're saying to get the perfect bracket, I mean, how physically can you get a perfect bracket? I don't even know really how you can get a perfect bracket. All the games, and you have to get every single scenario right because there's always a couple upsets. There's always a couple of upsets. So you have to predict those. And then as you go further down, I mean, you can't pick the favorites every time because upsets are going to happen. It's just so hard to find those upsets unless you just somehow overanalyze the game to death and you know, like, teams' weaknesses and how other teams can exploit. I don't see how anybody can get a perfect bracket. And if you do, just you're extremely lucky or I don't know. Like, it's insane. Or you're like Back to the Future or whatever where you knew all the games already because you went to the future and you had, like, all the results from the past. Like Biff in Back to the Future. That's why he got rich because of the fact he had all the results from the past games because he went to the future. So, yeah, it's like you just, like, you don't know. There's no way you can get a perfect bracket. It's impossible. I mean, I guess nothing's impossible, but I don't know. It would be like 0.00001% chance. RC says it's time for the coach to make adjustments or something for Illinois. TJ Otzelberger, people have been praising him, talking about how well he's done as a coach, but I think he's done a fantastic job at Iowa State, especially turning around from the end of the Steve Prohm era where they were awful. I mean, they were like 2-30 in his final season or whatever. Crazy. So definitely Otzelberg's done a great job, but he's got to figure something out. And Illinois, their defense, they're smothering Iowa State. Iowa State in the lane just missed a shot. So Iowa State down by 6, can't get a bucket. Illinois with the ball. It just might not be Iowa State's night. They're running out of time. Illinois definitely having a really good night on defense. Their offense has been up and down, but it's crazy. The Ohio State says, who would have thought also that Alabama would have made it further this season they did with Brandon Miller last season being the overall #1 seed in the tournament. That's the crazy thing, the Ohio State, because like you could argue Alabama's team was better last year, right? Because you had the star freshman Brandon Miller, but this year's team goes further. That's the craziest thing. Absolutely. The Ohio State, great point you made right there. Hummus Hero says the odds of getting a perfect bracket are astronomical. You said the actual odds are 1 in 9.2 quintillion. I mean, you look that up. I mean, that's nuts. Like, that's absolutely nuts. That is so impossible then. I mean, technically it's possible, but it's not possible. That's just crazy. 1 in 9.2 quintillion. That is insane. Doc and Marty, let's talk. Appreciate you for being here. And he's got Doc and Marty in his profile. So Back to the Future fans, did someone just say Back to the Future? Yes, I've seen all of the Back to the Future movies. And that's why I just figured I'd throw that in there. I mean, like, unless you know all the scores already, you're just not going to get it right. But, yeah, those are good movies. So appreciate you being here, Doc and Marty. But, yeah, I had to do the Back to the Future shout-out. Sorgy Story says, who in everyone's opinion should be player of the game for UConn, Newton or Castle? That's a good question. It's tough because of the fact Castle had a double-double, but Newton is the floor general. So I guess Newton because of the fact he's the floor general, but Castle definitely deserves it as well to an extent. But I guess Newton. 64-58, though. Both teams have traded buckets. Now Iowa State missed, but they're going to the line. So there's 2:09 to go in the second half. Iowa State down 6, need to hit both free throws. Doc and Marty says, I have all the scores for games. What's it worth? That's funny. That's hilarious. Will says, you got to score there, Iowa State. For sure. Iowa State, I don't get why their offense is struggling so hard. I know Illinois is playing well on defense, but some of their shots, they just haven't been great looks. Just not knocking them down. And Robert Jones for Iowa State's a 50% free throw shooter. But I'm telling you, though, sometimes these guys are the ones that make them in these moments. And he does. He knocks down the first. That's usually what happens. When a guy that's awful at the foul line goes to the line in a clutch moment, that's usually when the guy's going to hit it. And sometimes when you got the guy that's like a 70% or higher free throw shooter, or even like a 90% free throw shooter, that's when they miss. Because it's almost like they know they're a good free throw shooter, but the moment is just, it's so big. But that's just kind of the way it goes with poor free throw shooters. They're just like, what do I got to lose? I'm not a good free throw shooter. And they knock down both. So 64-60. Robert Jones, a 50% free throw shooter, comes in clutch for the Cyclones. Iowa State has to have a stop. Illinois at the top of the key. They're just draining the clock, which is smart. Got to do it. Got the lead, but still got to get a good shot. Shannon in the mid-range, thought about the shot, kicks over to Mask in the corner. His three's off the mark. Luke Goody with the offensive putback, and there's a foul. Looked like he almost was going to hit it, but he is not able to knock it down. 1:37 to go. I think there is a foul. But Brad Underwood's upset, though, because it would have been better for there not to be a foul because Coleman Hawkins tipped it in. Coleman Hawkins tipped it in, but I think they called a foul before that. Hummus Hero says basically you can fill out brackets from now until the end of the universe and not get it. So, yes, it's basically impossible. I mean, like, just because it's 1 in 9.2 quintillion, technically there's a chance, kind of like that famous meme. So there's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? I mean, but it's impossible. I love it, Hummus Hero. Just talking about the bracket and every year, like there was one year I think where somebody made it to like at least close to the Sweet 16 before their bracket got busted. People were going crazy about that, but he ended up falling short. But it's always interesting. My bracket was busted after like 3 games. I mean, it was like 3 games and it was already busted. So I wasn't really proud of that. I would have liked to have at least got to like 5 or 6 games before my bracket was busted. But Luke Goody, though, he knocks down both free throws for Illinois. So that's not good for Iowa State. Down by 6, $1:37 to go. Sorty Stories to chat. Any thoughts on the UConn question? Will says, I didn't watch the game laughing a lot. I knew UConn would win. Yeah, I didn't watch the game either. Like, I only watched like probably 5 minutes of it when the other game wasn't on, the Clemson game. with Arizona. Because, I mean, you just knew UConn was going to win. Like, UConn versus San Diego State, like, the discrepancy this year was bigger than last year. San Diego State was a really good team, but just no chance. Absolutely no chance to knock off UConn. It was not a competitive game. And I'm not saying that it's March Madness, so you want to watch the games. But if there's another game on, like if you get to the Final Four and there's no choice but to watch a certain game, I'm going to watch it. But when you have multiple games on and the game's not close, I'm going to watch the game. It's better. It's just the way it goes. But Iowa State at the line, Illinois with a foul, which is not smart by Illinois. You got the lead. No reason to foul the Cyclones, and Iowa State does cash in with 2 free throws. I'm seriously, well, that number is actually based on just randomly picking games. If you apply logic, it says it takes the odds down to the billion, so it is technically possible, but still highly improbable. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, I like math, and, you know, I'm not saying I'm an expert in math, but I like math a lot in numbers, but when you start getting into all that kind of stuff, like what you're talking about, randomly picking game versus odds and the different, I mean, that just takes literal, like, a genius to somehow put up the odds. I mean, somebody smart enough to put together the odds, but still nobody can put together a bracket. That just goes to show you the human existence. It's hilarious. Stuff like that's funny, but appreciate your comments on that, Hummus Hero. It's added a lot to that, you know, into perspective of how impossible it is, but still possible. So everybody keep trying for that perfect bracket. But 1:10 to go. Iowa State trying to further ruin my bracket by losing this game because I did pick the Cyclones to win. Illinois misses the shot, but Iowa State fouls again. And that's been the big problem here. Even though Illinois has been downright dreadful at the foul line in this game, Iowa State has fouled them so much that it's just kind of hasn't mattered. Like, Illinois just hit enough of them. They've hit enough free throws that despite their poor free throw shooting, they might pull this thing out. And Iowa State just hasn't had a good offensive day, which is shocking, and it really is. I know Illinois is a good team, but I don't think a lot of people thought Illinois was going to be going to the Elite Eight either. I don't think most people had that happening. Some people did. But Diego Coronel says, show the points. Dude, I got it on the screen, man. It's on the screen. Thank you, Willie. Has it on the scoreboard. I've had other people say that in the past, show the points, and it's like, I got the points on the screen. I used to not. If you watch my old streams, which I'm sure you remember, Will, and you Hummus Hero, I used to not have the points up. I used to just have like a thumbnail on there. But now I got the score. But then other people will say, show the game. And it's like, I can't show the game. I mean, I can't show the game. But appreciate you for being here, Diego. But I do indeed have the score on the screen. Hummus Hero says, I find math amazing, but I suck at it. Ha. I don't know how much of an expert I am at math. I really like math, but still, some of the stuff's just too complicated. Diego says player points. Well, that's kind of tough to do. I can try real quick to pull up the player points, but I know Terrence Shannon has 23 or something like that. He's got like 23 points, but I could try to pull that up real quick. I mean, it's just kind of hard to blow the whole thing up because then you got a bunch of ads on screen, and then you can barely see the main score. So that's why I've got it blown up where you can really see the score, which I think most people care more about than the players' points. But I can see how some people would still care about it, so I am going to try to find it for you, Diego. But do appreciate you for being here, though. Okay, so we got right here below the points, in another tab, I got the player points. Ty Rogers is 4 for Illinois. Quincy Guerrier has 5. Coleman Hawkins is 12. Marcus Damascus 7. Terrence Shannon is 24. And then on Iowa State, Milan Momosevich has 1. That's a big problem for Iowa State. He's only got 1 point, and he's been one of their leading scorers this season, averaging like 11 points. So he's not playing well. Jones is 6. King is 10. Lipsy is 8. And Keyshawn Gilbert's got 14. So definitely Illinois starting 5 doing better than Iowa State starting 5, especially because of Terrence Shannon. But Milan Momosevich, he's been the guy that's really struggled for Iowa State in this game, and that is unfortunately why they are losing. But they're only down 3. They still have a shot to win. But I think they just fouled Illinois again, so the Fighting Illini have to miss some free throws, which they've done all game. Yeah, Iowa State was trying to draw a charge there, but Shannon had the player positioning there. Shannon's an 81% free throw shooter, and he's only 2 of 6 at the line tonight. So definitely goes to show that in March Madness, in these clutch moments, really good free throw shooters cannot do well at the line. Iowa State fans biting their nails. Can Shannon miss? His first free throw is up, and it goes in. And I think Iowa State, it was the 1-1. So if he had a missed, that would have given Iowa State a chance because of the fact that they would have only been down 3 and they would have gotten the ball. But Illinois, second free throw, Shannon is not able to knock it down. But he did hit the more important one, which was the first one, to put Illinois up by 4. But Iowa State needs a bucket. Can they get it to keep their chances alive? Iowa State looking for a shot attempt and a steal. Illinois down the floor. Terrence Shannon with the dunk. And that might be it. That might do it. Only 20 seconds left. What a play by Shannon. Iowa State trying to get it inside, loses the basketball, and it's out of bounds off of Illinois, but there's only 15 seconds left. I cannot believe that lazy pass. You've only got like 20-something seconds left in the game, and you make that lazy of a pass. That's how bad Milan Momosiewicz has obviously played. I have not watched hardly any of this game because I was doing the Alabama-Carolina game, but unbelievable. What a terrible pass by Momosiewicz. Great steal by Shannon. Looks like Illinois is moving on, so I'm going to be 1-3 tonight on my picks. Will says that's all, folks. Like Looney Tunes, but still, I mean, there's a little bit of time, but you're probably right, Will. Looks like it's over. Michigan Moose, appreciate you for stopping by. Says, freaking North Carolina just messed up my bracket. I picked NC to win it all. I had NC going to the Final Four, Moose. I had North Carolina going far, and they let me down. Alabama going to their second ever Elite Eight, just like Clemson. So 2 teams that are predominantly football schools that have only now been going to their second Elite Eight with these wins. Huge wins by them. Who will go to their first ever Final Four? It's going to be crazy. Can't believe Carolina lost, to be honest. I thought they'd get it done. Thought Alabama's defense would let them down, but nope. Just crazy stuff. The Ohio State said, what a steal by Shannon. Yeah, Shannon is a good player. I mean, he had some struggles this season, obviously, when he was not able to play earlier in the year because he was in some trouble. But once he was able to get back out there over time, Shannon started playing like his old self. He's a good player. I mean, it was a fantastic pickup for Brad Underwood to add him to the team on the floor. He's been great. Hummus here said, well, the Big Ten gets at least one in the Elite Eight. I think last season they didn't have any. Yeah, the Big Ten's been a laughingstock lately, and they haven't been able to advance. I mean, Michigan State was like the last team to make a big run. And Michigan did it as well with Juwan Howard, but Izzo has done it recently. But like most of the Big Ten teams have been following. Purdue made the Elite Eight the one year with Carson Edwards. But the Big Ten has not been advancing. Like you said, Hummus here, none of them made it. I think Michigan State made the Sweet 16, and that was it. But now you're going to have Illinois and possibly Purdue. Purdue, there's still a chance for them. Iowa State driving in, out of bounds off of Illinois again, but that just wasted 3 seconds. The Ohio State says, as of now, I think the national championship game will be Houston versus UConn, and UConn wins. That's a good pick. I mean, I can't remember. Do I have Houston going to the championship game in my bracket? I know I got UConn making it, but I can't remember who I have on the other side. It's probably Houston, though. So I'm with you there. But will both teams make it? It's March Madness, so upsets can happen. Even though Houston, UConn looking like the best teams, you never know. We got 4 games tomorrow night as well. It's going to be fun. Will says Houston didn't look good in their last game. Well, I know they won. I don't know how much they won by. I forgot. But Houston's been pretty solid all season long, even if they didn't look good in their last game. They've been very solid. So I'm going to look at Houston real quick. What did Houston do? I forgot. I know that Houston has been great all season. They play. I know they struggled in the game against – and they really struggled in the game against Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament. Oh, yeah, that's it. The Texas A&M game. So hard to keep all these games straight. But the Texas A&M game that went to overtime. That's it. You're right, Will. But they pulled it out. I mean, sometimes you don't play all that well. Their defense let them down. But maybe that will wake Houston up. It's kind of like Creighton getting that win over Oregon. That might wake these teams up. So you're right. You're absolutely right, Will. Houston was not impressive. I watched the tail end of that game. Terrible performance overall. But they got the win. That's all that matters. So we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. But Illinois made a huge mistake in this game because of the fact that I don't know why they did, but they fouled on a 3, and now Iowa State actually still has a glimmer of hope because they've just hit all 3 of their free throws, so it is a 3-point game, 70-67. Luke Goody to inbound, kicks to Shannon, and surprisingly no foul call until 6 seconds left. So Iowa State just wasted a couple extra seconds there. It looked like they were trying to foul earlier, but the refs didn't give it to them. But 70-67. If Illinois hits a free throw, they should be good. Sorgy Story says, I've got UConn over Marquette in the final. I mean, Marquette could make it too. You never know. Moose says he's got Duke beating Houston. I was close on that because I did have Duke and Houston facing each other in the Sweet 16. But in my bracket, I picked Houston over Duke, so I had to honor it when making my predictions because I based it off my bracket. I wasn't one of those people that made like 100 different brackets like some people do, and then they pick different results for every one. I went with one bracket, and I made my predictions based off of it. If the teams that I picked aren't there, then I make a pick based off who I believe is going to win in that game. But if the teams did make it, like I do have Duke, Houston making it, but I had Houston advancing, then I went with Houston with my prediction to honor it. But Shannon, he might have just put this game to bed. Knocked down both free throws at 72-67. TJ Otzelberger's calling timeout, but it looks like it might all be window dressing. Yeah, like Will said, that was dumb that they call that timeout now. I'm like, why call a timeout? I mean, this thing's basically done. I mean, crazier things have happened, but I don't know. That's not a great timeout, I don't think. Hummus here said Duke might actually be a bad matchup for Houston. Houston doesn't have much size. But then Ohio State says Houston's a very physical team and Duke may struggle some with that. That's what's awesome about analysis when it comes to, basketball games, even football games, but really basketball games, because you can take it a million different ways. You might, this team's going to shoot better. Well, this team's going to out-hustle them. This team's going to the physicality. It's just you never know. I mean, I thought Iowa State would win. They didn't. I thought, Clemson would lose to Arizona. That didn't happen. I thought Carolina would beat Bama. That didn't happen. So I went 1-3 tonight. But who knows? Tomorrow night I could go 3-1 or undefeated or 0-4. You just never know. Michigan Moose says I only made one also, and NC screwed me laughing out loud. Yes. And that's the thing. Like, Carolina's the first team that I have making the Final Four that lost. I was doing so good. All of my Final Four teams were still alive until now. Carolina blew it. I didn't think Carolina was going to be the first of my Sweet Six or my losing in the Sweet 16. I didn't think that they would be the first team that I picked to make the Final Four to lose. I thought maybe it would be Creighton because I have Creighton making it to the Final Four. I didn't think it'd be UConn or Houston losing first, but maybe it'd be Creighton. But I didn't think Carolina was going to lose in the Sweet 16. I didn't see it happening, but it's March Madness. Best teams don't always win. Bama's a really, really good team, so they deserve all the credit, but still just wasn't expecting it. Ohio State says today 3 of the 4 lower seeds will end up winning. And that's why I got my picks wrong, because I unfortunately picked the higher seed every time, or the lower seed, I guess. Whatever way you want to look at it. I guess it's the lower seed because 2 is a smaller number than 3, but it's a higher seed because it's higher up in the bracket. So it just depends on the way you look at that analogy. But I picked the teams that were favored to win, all 4 of them. I didn't tomorrow. I do have a couple upsets tomorrow on my picks, but for today's games, I had all of the favorites winning, and that did not occur. So Illinois does hold on. Iowa State score with basically nothing left on the clock, 0.2 seconds left, and the Fighting Illini win 72-69. If Diego's still here, I'll show the updated points real quick if he is still here, because he was asking about the points, if I can pull that up real quick. But Illinois, Iowa State, it was a very good game. Illinois led by a lot of points in the first half, over double digits. But then Iowa State came all the way back, made it interesting. But Iowa State just did not shoot the ball well. That was the difference. They just did not shoot the ball well. And even though Illinois shot bad at the line, Illinois ended up making enough free throws that they were able to win. But as you can see, Terrence Shannon, though, with 29 points, that proved to be the difference. He played well enough. That's why sometimes you have to have a go-to scorer. Nobody else really played well. Coleman Hawkins at 12. Luke Goody at 8. Those were the next leading scorers for Illinois. Even Marcus Damask, who's been averaging like 15 points, only had 7, but Shannon at 29. And then for Iowa State, you did have Curtis Jones off the bench with 26. But then everybody else was terrible. Gilbert at 14, King 12, and then no one else did anything. So it's like you just had enough production from the other guys, and then Shannon outscoring Curtis Jones. And really that was the difference. Because Curtis Jones at 26, Shannon at 29, and Illinois won by 3. So the hot player for both teams, Shannon was just a little bit hotter in this game. Played a little bit better. He was on fire. Will, except at the line, though. He struggled at the line. Will says, we're going to see if Duke is soft like everyone says they are tomorrow. I mean, I don't know how necessarily soft Duke is. I've seen a lot of people say that, like you said, Will. It's crazy that people are saying that. I mean, in some games, I guess they kind of have been, but I don't know. I think Duke can beat Houston, but I'm going with Houston to win. Will says, I picked Carolina in all 3 Big East schools. I had 2 making it. Like I said, UConn and Creighton. Those were my 2 Big East schools making it. Then I had Houston, Carolina, but Carolina the first to fall. Boo says, I wasn't expecting that game to be close. Credit Bama for taking it to NC. Yeah, I had it being close. I thought Bama would keep it close. I only had Carolina winning by 3, but I'm with you, Moose. It was a shocking loss. It was very tough for everybody that either roots for Carolina or pick Carolina to win in their bracket. Very tough loss. The Ohio State says, I have Creighton beating Tennessee tomorrow. Me too, the Ohio State. I have my predictions up on my channel, but I do have Creighton when I made my prediction beating Tennessee. Just trust Greg McDermott a little bit more than Rick Barnes. Then the Ohio State says Houston versus Duke will come down to the end. I think it should be a game that goes down to the wire, but I can't wait for tomorrow's games. I don't know when I'll be able to stream again. It depends on my schedule, but I really do appreciate all you guys for being here tonight. All 4 of these games, fun to watch. The UConn one really wasn't, but it's March Madness, so it's still fun. But the Clemson-Arizona game was really good. Clemson getting that upset win. Bama upsetting Carolina. Now the 2 teams that only their second Elite 8 appearance are going to be facing each other. That's awesome. Illinois, barely an upset, but they upset Iowa State. Kind of shocking there. But then, obviously, UConn blowing it out, but it's crazy. Michigan Moose says, I picked Creighton also, but it's March Madness. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we got some more games to watch. The Sweet 16 continues tomorrow, then the Elite 8, and then just before you know it, like a flash, you're going to be down to the Final 4 teams, the championship game. We're already discussing the portal, but the portal is going to get a whole lot crazier, especially once these teams are out. Be covering that as well on the channel, but definitely like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Share the stream out on social media, but most importantly, I appreciate all you guys for showing up tonight in the YouTube chat. Appreciate you guys for being here. A lot of the regulars as well being here. It's always fun having you guys for these streams. It makes these games so much more fun to watch. You guys are the best. Appreciate everybody for tuning in on Rumble as well. Give me a follow over there and follow me on Twitter also. But Hummus Zero says, thanks, Jeffrey. It was a blast as always. Good night, everyone. But again, do appreciate everybody for being here. And I will be back to stream again soon. Don't know when for sure. Can't promise it at any time. But I will hopefully be back to stream soon for another March Madness game. But this was a lot of fun. Illinois getting a big win and Carolina falling to Bama. It was a lot of fun. But appreciate everybody for being here. March Madness is here, and it's going to be over before we know it. So we got to enjoy it while it's here. Thanks for being here, everybody.